You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the March 11th, 2024 meeting of the Long Beach Town Council. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Welcome everyone to the March Long Beach Town Council meeting. Let's stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I have one opening remark. We inadvertently left an agenda item off the agenda, which was the town welcome signs. So we're going to add that back at the end of unfinished business. Next up, we have approval of the minutes, the Executive Council meeting from February 12th.
I make a motion to approve the Executive Council meeting minutes.
Do we have a second for discussion?
Thank you, Meg.
Was that-
I make a motion to approve the Special Council meeting, Executive Council meeting minutes of February 12th, 2024.
Okay, second for discussion?
I second the motion.
All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The regular council meeting minutes from February 12th, 2024. I believe there's an error on page 2. When they were talking about the term limit ordinance, it says that we passed this on one reading. That did not happen. So that is a mistake. So I would move to approve these minutes with that correction. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? I believe we have a guest from the town of Trail Creek, Councilmember Jennifer Heath. Just push the button. So you get a red, there you go.
There it is. Good evening. My name's Jennifer Heath. I'm the council president for Trail Creek, and I'm here on behalf of our town to inquire about using your council chambers for our meetings. As some of you may or may not know, our council chamber is going to be under renovation for the next few months. We have no idea of how long. I'm anticipating a minimum of 2 to 3 months. However, we are in need of meeting space during that time. So our meetings do not conflict with yours. Ours are the third Tuesday of every month. So right now we'd be looking at April 16th, May 21st, and June 18th, each meeting being at 7 p.m. Our meetings last for about an hour, sometimes a little more. And we can provide our own police officer if we need to. We're just looking for a place to hold our meetings so that we can, convene and not be virtual during that time.
I don't know how everybody feels. I don't see a problem with it. Chief, do we have a way for them to get into the building? And
We do. I'll make sure that President Heath has access and our officers will be available to allow them in and to follow up after the meeting to make sure that the town hall is secure. Not a problem.
Okay, any other discussion? Do we need a motion for this?
You should probably formally approve it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we allow the Town of Trail Creek Council to use our meeting room while theirs is being remodeled. We have a second?
I'll second.
Again, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Have a good evening. Bye.
We are now up to public comments. We're going to limit these to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments on Zoom? See, if you, any public comments on Zoom, raise your hand. Not seeing any. We got any public comments in the audience? Please give us your name and your address.
I live at 2225. Oops, sorry. My name is Ellen Lynch, and I live at 2225 Lakeshore Drive. I just wanted to make a comment. I see that's on the agenda about noise and nuisances that you're going to be looking at, and I took it upon myself to kind of look through all the ordinance and see what kind of ordinances we do have. We do have a general one that's created by other people. We have one that's for habitual dog barking. We have one for motors, mufflers, honking horns, with penalties. And of course, everyone knows the fireworks. The nuisance created by others probably would fit the most thing about the parties that last till 4 in the morning and the loud noises and the uncooperative neighbors that other people throughout the community have with trying to get them to lower their music, which they don't, and like to make you feel like I'm old. So, but no, that it's, you know, it's us, not them, that are causing this. So I just wanted to comment that I think it'd be a great idea to further define the nuisance of noise and partying, and, you know, can put a time limit on fireworks. Maybe we can put a time limit on parties. 4 in the morning is a bit late, as well as 12:30 in the afternoon. So it, some guidelines might help with some of the neighbors. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
Yeah. Good, she left it on the table. Oh, Chief Swistek, you know me. I'm Becky Lipton. I live at 3016 Northmore Trail, and my house faces Moore Road, which is the boundary between us and Shoreland Hills and Duneland Beach. And I'm here again this year because speeding on Moore Road is a consistent problem. Chief Swistek shared the data with me from when he placed one of the speed detection devices for 2 weeks last June, and there were very few people that exceeded 55 miles an hour. It's a 25 mile Moore Road from 12 to Lakeshore Drive is zoned 25 miles. A lot of people go up to 35 miles. Few people go over 35 miles, but there is a consistent problem between 6 and about 8:30 a.m. every day with a goodly amount of large trucks or even small trucks speeding. Is that anyhow, it's a goodly problem. And again, the problem, of course, is very difficult in the summertime with large numbers of families with kids walking in the street or right adjacent to the street because there's no sidewalks, walking to the beach and back again. And that is always a problem. Duneland Beach Drive, which is the next street over parallel to Moore Road, has 4 stop signs between US 12 and Lakeshore Drive. I don't think Chastleton has even one, and I see that the Chastleton speed limit sign update is on the agenda, so I was hoping that the question of Moore Road could be folded into that. But we would beg reconsideration of, if not a stop sign at the corner where Montclair on our side and Northbrook on the other side goes into Moore Road. A stop sign there would be a godsend because there's a straightaway between US 12 and that intersection. And everybody goes more than 35 miles an hour. I can tell you because I go 25 miles an hour and everybody's always tailgating me. Of course, if I ever got stopped for speeding on that road, I'm sure I would be so embarrassed after all these. But anyhow, so I'm begging that. I also, several years ago, collected data on the cost and the feasibility of installing speed tables, not speed humps, but speed tables which are wider and could be installed with places for emergency vehicles to go through with their wheel width is different than most cars and trucks. So that's another passive intervention that could be re-explored. And my neighbors across the street in Shoreland and in Duneland have been going with me to the Public Works meetings in Michigan City, and there's more or less interest in that too. So, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Hi there. I have something I had to say. I'm on the list, or just want to let you know. Can I go through whatever?
We've got somebody ahead of you.
I'll be next. Thank you. Hi, how are you? Good. How are you? All right.
Good.
Good floor.
Oh, thank you.
It was on.
It was on. Great.
Still not on.
Still not on. There you go.
I'm Melanie Davis. I live at 2925 Lothair Way. I have lived in Long Beach as a full-time resident for about 17 years, so it's been a long time. I own no other house, so this is my primary concern and my primary residence, my only residence. I am here this evening, and I've spoken to all of you, each and every one of you. I haven't spoken to you, but you're next. And I'm just trying to get everybody's point of view. And so one might ask, so why am I here if I've already spoken to everybody? And I guess one can only say I'm an optimist. I'm here to advocate the maintenance, the continuation of the ordinance for town, for term limits. And I do think it is a critical piece of legislation, let's call it legislation, in our town. I think it bespeaks of a very progressive environment, which I think we are trying to establish here. And I do think that that everybody here probably would say, yeah, I believe in term limits, it's a good thing. And most of you that I have spoken with, I think all of you would say it's a good thing. The problem is this particular ordinance. And my point of view is, okay, we have an ordinance, a lot of time and effort went into establishing that ordinance. It may not be perfect. It probably isn't perfect. Can it ever be perfect? I don't know. I would strongly advocate that we keep it. If you all have time during your one-year tenure to deal with this issue, this ordinance, great. That would be wonderful. If you need to kick it down the road for the next administration, that's another consideration. But I do think it should be maintained. I think it does need attention. I think that it would be awfully nice if even you need to find, if you all don't have time, if there could be a commission created in town. There are many lawyers and many people who would vie into this kind of thing to make it better and more workable. So my point is that it's a nonpartisan way of conducting a government. And we should be proud that we are part of that advanced thinking relative to government. So I hope we keep it. Thank you.
Jim Lewis, yes. Am I next? Yes. Oh, I did. Right. This here, let's see if it works. Hi there, Mitch Tabell, 2020 Golden Gate Drive, Long Beach, Indiana, 46360. All right, I'm being maliciously prosecuted. I would expect everybody in government to side with me. My family pays more in taxes than everybody else. They invested in my future, education, vehicles, college, etc. I filed a number of lawsuits in the federal courts. Taylor Swift, Tabell versus Taylor Swift, Tabell versus Joe Biden. Everybody's invited to read them. I sent the complaints to Shannon Wojcik. She can forward them all to you. There's a lot of false allegations in the police reports. I'll send those to her as well. The officer should be fired. Everybody's invited to consider that. I was just diagnosed with cancer, melanoma. It's not terminal, I'm sure, but I need surgery. Let everyone know. Yes, I'm being maliciously prosecuted. We pay a lot more taxes than the complainant, and I've got exonerating video footage. The most serious of the allegations or that I knocked on somebody's door after they asked me not to, which is not true. I have video footage of me going and knocking on their door to ask them if they wanted to be in the Instagram video, because I'm a very nice person. And apparently they claimed that they had asked me not to knock on their door. They didn't make a complaint. However, later when I was illegally arrested for allegedly stalking Taylor Swift, I was framed for sending Instagram messages I didn't send from an account that didn't belong to me, as I said last time. Anyway, those charges were dismissed, and the complainant in those police reports was actually fired. Taylor Swift fired her, or fired him afterwards. So it wasn't even Taylor Swift. So this is not monkey see, monkey do. You don't make a complaint because Taylor Swift does. That's ludicrous. These are unprofessional grounds to bring criminal charges against somebody. The complainant is obviously an adult. She's not a child, which, you know, she has no reason to not bring the allegations of knocking on somebody's door immediately when it would happen. If there was a crime, obviously people have an obligation to make a complaint right away. You don't wait down the road. The other allegation was that she received an email or some messages that had been sent to all contacts after she asked me not to talk to her. But, you know, we had met and seen each other in person, and we're talking. It's in the police reports that we had spoken a number of times. And, you know, just a few days before I said hi to her, she said hi back. But the time before that, I got out of the car when I saw her. We live in the same neighborhood. We gave each other a hug. We've been friends for many years. It's in the police reports. We had sex in San Diego before I went on semester at sea. I'm semester at sea alumni. It's more prestigious than Harvard because it costs more and it's associated with the United Nations. So I expect everybody to side with me and follow me on social media, everybody. So anyways, I have assistants send these messages, copy paste messages, send emails on social media and everything. I'm trying to get a presidential campaign going here. And she may have received some of those messages, but the allegations are that for stalking, which is a felony, which is totally obscene. This is insane. You don't charge somebody with a felony, a good, honorable, respectable TV host, tax-paying citizen for, am I up? That's it? Okay, all right. Exonerating evidence. I expect everyone, Mitch and Taylor Swift, everybody, Google me on social media. Thank you. Have a great night. All right. Send you those documents. Shannon, everybody, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay, any more public comments? Okay, we're going to move on to committee reports. Police Department, Police Commission, Chief Swistek.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of February, the Long Beach Police Department responded to 222 calls for service when compared to 230 in the previous year, for a slight decrease of 8 calls for service. During the month of February, 16 incident reports were documented. A total of 4 individuals were arrested, 2 misdemeanor arrests related to operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, and 2 felony drug-related arrests. One of which I would like to highlight from February 12th. Corporal Matthew Farthing, who is present with us in the back of the room tonight. Deputy Farthing and Deputy Mitchell Seitz conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle that was observed driving down the middle of US 12 while crossing the center line of the roadway. In the 4400 block of US 12, they approached the vehicle and they were able to smell a strong odor of burnt marijuana coming from the vehicle. The vehicle was occupied by a 61-year-old male driver from Michigan City and a 33-year-old male passenger also from Michigan City. During the traffic stop, they encountered narcotics, drug paraphernalia, and other drug packaging materials that were inside the vehicle during a search. Both the driver and the passenger were arrested on felony drug charges. Here's where it becomes a little bit more interesting. The passenger was discovered at the LaPorte County Jail to be concealing narcotics that were located during a body scanner during the intake process at the jail. The body scanner located a total of 45 grams of crack cocaine. This is a substantial amount of cocaine. Charges were filed for dealing in cocaine as a level 2 felony, possession of cocaine as a level 3 felony, and a level 5 trafficking with an inmate, as the arrestee was found to be in possession of narcotics after passing through a specific point within the county jail. So I'd just like to take a moment to thank Corporal Farthing for all his work that he does on the night shift, not only on February 12th, but then again, just 10 days later, on February 22nd, he had another drug-related arrest for possession of meth and possession of drug paraphernalia, also on an individual that was stopped right out here on US 12 between the 3 communities that we patrol. So from Long Beach, Dunlin Beach, and then going to the town of Michiana Shores. Our staff travel US 12 quite frequently, traveling between the three communities, and the gentlemen do an excellent job. So Matthew, great job on both of those arrests last month. With that, with the approaching, hard to believe it's going to be next month already, that Sergeant Schooley will be retiring, I would like to announce the promotions within the police department. Sergeant Schooley's position is the chief deputy, which is kind of my right-hand person that assists me on the day-to-day operations of the department. Sergeant Mitchell Seitz has been promoted to take Sergeant Schooley's position. So he is now taking on those roles in the patrol operations, and he's being assisted by the promotion of Deputy Farthing's been promoted to corporal. So Corporal Farthing and Sergeant Seitz will be working together, overseeing the day-to-day patrol operations. And also Corporal Farthing recently, back in January, graduated from the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy with the certification as a certified instructor with the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. So he is a state certified instructor now. Therefore, we can do a lot of our own in-house training. He can also assist other police departments in training, and any of the training that he is present for, officers receive credit with the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, since he is now a certified instructor with the state of Indiana. So Matthew, congratulations on your certification. One last thing on the police department, just want to touch on earlier the comments by Mrs. Lipton on Moore Road. This morning, Deputy Disbro was on Moore Road for probably a good hour or two, patrolling during the time frame that Becky had described. I know he was out there stopping several vehicles this morning and that, because I spoke to him personally about some of the traffic stops that he was doing. So to Becky's comments, like I said, they don't go unnoticed. We were out there today, and we will have the radar trailer out there in the next couple of weeks. We're getting ready to pull that out of storage now that spring is officially here next Tuesday. So we'll get that out, deploying it probably in the next 2 weeks on Moore Road. And there was no police commission meeting for the month of February. Town administrator.
Town Administrator Chief.
Touch on a couple of things. One, this room, if you look up, has been painted last week. This room underwent a refresh. So except for the ceiling, everything else has been refreshed in here. Also, the plan is to try and get new carpeting in here this fall, as long as we do not expend the building maintenance fund. Last year we were going to put new carpeting in here, but we expended the budget on some emergency expenditures. Therefore, carpeting had to get foregoed until this year. So we're hoping to get new carpeting in here in the fall. The entire town hall will be completing here in the next couple of weeks the painting of the town hall. This Thursday, the clerk's office and the water department office will be painted this week, and then the front lobby will also be painted this week, Thursday. It's been 20 years since the town hall has been repainted, so we are kind of giving it a makeover, along with some other LED lighting was replaced back in the kitchen, back in the copier room. We had to replace some LED lighting back there 2 weeks ago because of some of the older fixtures, the ballast, were going out, and therefore we replaced those as well. Both street department and water department are functioning well. Tom had the street department out with the street sweeper last week, and we will continue to get the street sweeper out. We did a test run with it last week just to make sure there were no mechanical issues with it, and we'll continue to see that out now that the weather's improving as well. And then we'll be working on the leaf pickup dates. We'll have those out to the community in the following weeks for the spring pickup. Just as a reminder, that is only 1 week on the leaf pickup. Typically we do it towards the latter part of April, usually the last week of April, but at our April meeting, April 8th, I will have those dates out for everybody so that they know when the upcoming leaf pickup will be. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Volunteer Fire Department?
Oops. Tom Yem couldn't be here this evening. He's conducting the training this evening, so I'm the stand-in. The monthly fire department report, our year-to-date fire calls are 11 compared to 3 for the prior year. The average turnout for fire calls was 7, including quite a few false alarms. On the medical calls, we had, previous year to date was 18. This year, year to date, we're at 11. Month of February, we're 6. The average turnout is 5 for the medical calls, which is a very impressive number. Year to date, overall average response for fire calls is 4.5 minutes, and for medical calls is right above 4 minutes. I have to switch the screen for a second. A couple of other highlights. The call volume is tracking to last year, 22 calls for year to date versus 21 last year. Our hazmat training is going on for our newer members. It continues at the Old School Weekly. For our newest members, Firefighter 1 training begins in May. As you all know, that's a huge commitment for our firemen. They have to set their families aside and attend weekly training in addition to the monthly training that we all do to get these certifications. But those certifications are exactly what paid members get in other fire departments, so it's quite an undertaking. We're very proud of those guys for putting in the effort. We're able to do that because we have it, just like Mark does, we have some in-house training personnel now, which really makes it convenient. This month's fire training included SCBA confidence course at the Michigan City Fire Department Training Facility over on Hitchcock, which we make great use of. It's a wonderful facility. We're doing hydrant and pump operations this evening and engine driving, and we did some EMS joint training. We had the ambulance in and we reviewed their equipment and some of their procedures with them over at our street department garage. Coming up this month, we're going to do some more hazmat training and the NIPSCO electricity training. A couple of reminders for the populace. Keep your addresses visible on the home. Sometimes it's on a mailbox and it's very confusing in the middle of the night to try to figure out who's on first. So if you haven't, take a look at your numbers. If you need to paint them in a contrasting color, some of the really architectural, beautiful ones are very difficult to differentiate. So if you can just put something bold out there, that helps us a lot. And for people that aren't here most of the time, a key holder in town is a wonderful thing, because then we don't have to break windows and doors to get in when your automatic alarm goes off in the middle of the night. So I would encourage everybody to have a key holder, a local key holder for your property. The last thing would be, generally when the time changes, we encourage everybody to check their batteries and their CO monitors and their fire smoke detectors in their homes. That's it for the fire report. I've got the fire commission, which if you'd like me to, I'll just stroll right into that. We did hold a fire commission meeting on March 7th. It was our inaugural meeting with some of our new members, which went off really well. We discussed general updates for them, give them a little bit of a framework for the future. We talked about the history of the operation, the relationship with the town, how we do business together. We talked a little bit about fire and medical operations, how the paging works, talked about our call summary up to date, and then the membership, the officers, fire and medical people, administrative as well. We talked about the public safety building a little bit, did a schedule update, which will be in this meeting. We'll do that a little bit later for the rest of the council. And then we talked about the fire truck purchase. I'd like to highlight that for the rest of the council. I know Shannon and Joy were at the meeting, as well as Anita, but essentially you guys are going to be tasked in the next 12 months with coming up with a lease or whatever we're going to do, some bank financing for the new truck. It's not going to come until 25, but we really ought to have that in place at the end of the year, because I think early in 25 we'll have to write the check. So the other thing we did was we're going to coordinate with Mark. He's doing his police commissions quarterly. We're going to shift the fire commission to quarterly meetings. In fact, the April meeting, we will have another meeting then, and then keep on that schedule with you with your quarterly meetings. So I think you're at 3, I think you switched to. At least it showed that. Or are you at 4? I think you're at 3 and we'll go to 4. So I think Meg changed it on the web. So the fire commission meetings will be at 4 quarterly following the police commission meetings. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. Public Works, Kendra.
Public Works met on February 26th. We did decide we're going to have a new time. It's going to be still the 4th Monday of the month, but at 8 a.m. Super popular meeting, so everyone might want to change their calendars to come at 8 a.m. now instead of 10 a.m. to Public Works. Stop 1718, if you've seen the work going down there, that's a stormwater project. It started on February 26th and supposed to last 4 to 8 weeks, so that should be done by Memorial Day. They had a change from Haas Engineering to install a big structure that's going to save us thousands of dollars. It's lighter and doesn't need a crane for installation, so that's a positive savings for the town. And we got quotes for the new F-550 truck that I think we're going to be, and maybe already have, sent to Budget and Finance for their approval, and eventually it'll make its way to the council, I guess, after they look at that. Thanks to Tom Dolph again and our wonderful crew. They fixed the hydraulics on one of the plows, so that saved us a bunch of money there. And the water service project is almost completed. I don't know if we have an end date for that, but on February 26th, which has now already been, what, a couple weeks, you know, it was on its way. So I think that's going as planned. And we got a $35,000 credit from a vendor for some unused products. So that's all positive. And that's pretty much it for Public Works. Did I miss anything? I can go into Park Board too now.
Okay,
Because it was canceled, so there's no report.
okay. Community Center, Anita.
The community center met on February 5th, and for their March meeting, they're meeting tomorrow. There have been several projects that they're always interested in over there. They are getting costs on having an ADA equitable bathroom available, and they're trying to come up with a solution that really works and is fairly economical, and I think they're getting close. They're looking at some different repairs, kitchen renovation. They are getting the county health people involved because they need to advise on upgrades and whether there's any need there for a stove or any of that. I don't think there is. Most people are bringing in their own food. There was discussion of the renters, and I believe that, and I'll find out more tomorrow, that there may be just one room available, room 8. There were some switches, which is good. So the building is full. There are a couple things. They've been developing a master list over the years. Some of the things are courtyard room renovation, again, the ADA toilet room and dressing room near the Y. And, you know, again, talking about whether monies can be raised, how we can do the dream projects on the list, and just continuing to move forward. It is more of, and I think people, you know, it sounds exciting, the community center, but I think that there's an idea that it's more than what it is, which is basically the community center maintenance and daily operations committee, which means somebody needs to clean the toilet, someone needs to schedule the cleaning. It's a wonderful building, and the community center is doing, the community center committee is doing the best they can, but many times it's just daily maintenance. So again, they're doing their best. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Budget and Finance, Meg.
Yes, Budget and Finance Committee met on March 6th, and financials were distributed along with budget numbers to the department heads so that they can follow the budget numbers and make informed decisions. And as discussed at that meeting, we intend to give the council projections each month, and we'll have those ready in April. That means fund projections. The $500,000 water CD matures in June, so the committee is going to work on what the investment plan will look like in June and going forward. I think all of the water CDs are then matured, but we don't want to spend too much with those projects, the costs of the water project that's going to come, I think, in later this, maybe in May or July, maybe. We're looking at a rainy day fund transfer. That's being discussed at the meeting. And a budget and finance workshop is going to be held March 27th at 1 p.m. to review the town's capital plan. Those are the bigger items. Trista, our accountant, is on Zoom, I believe. If you were to have anything to add, Trista, otherwise, there she is. So, anything additional?
Only just I'm sorry, Meg, just a very small correction. The $500,000 CD is actually the town side of the money. As you then later stated, all of the water CDs have matured already.
Thanks. And that's all.
Okay, is that it, Meg?
Yes.
Thank you. Human Resources, JD.
Human Resource Committee did not meet in February.
Thank you. Tree Board, Ellen.
We didn't meet.
Okay. Meeting's looking better. Building Commission did not meet. They'll be meeting 3/22 at 1 p.m. And the BZA is meeting tomorrow. They've got 2 agenda items, 3006 Loma Portal and 1610 Nichols Court. APC, Anita?
APC did not meet.
Building and Revenue Report for February, Meg?
There were 12 permits issued totaling $328,619 with revenue of $38.61. 3 electric permits issued in February totaling $346. 1 street cut permit with revenue of $100. Legal expenses paid in February, $6,212.50 to Bragy, Nelson and Janes. Accounting charges paid in February, $1,362.81 to Sender and Company.
I would make a motion to approve the reports. Do we have a second for discussion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving reports, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Unfinished business, Public Safety Building progress update.
This afternoon, I met with the superintendent from Holiday Construction, Joe Core. We did a walkthrough of the building, and we are just a few weeks away from the final cleanup of the facility. Things are moving exceptionally well. They'll be out doing some concrete work on the exterior this week. The flagpoles on the exterior have been installed. They look beautiful out front of the building. The majority of the landscaping is down. I would say a good 80% of it is completed. And the inside, we've got some painting that just needs to be touched up. A few more plumbing fixtures need to go in. The bathrooms, all the rooms are pretty much 80% or better complete. So I would say sometime in April, we'll be doing the final walkthrough with the punch list with the hopes of having the building ready to go in May, no later than May 1st. So.
Thank you. MS4 ordinance update. I heard from Larry that the MS4 ordinance is done, and I also heard from him that while he's in Florida, I'm the MS4 officer. Which is trouble for all of us. So hopefully we'll see the ordinance soon, and we can all review it and maybe make some sort of decision next month.
I want to just encourage, so that draft is out there, so I will follow up after the meeting to make sure it's voluminous, it's out, so it needs to be approved. That's one of the steps that previous council contracting with Reggie and her services and to advise, that's something that needs to get done as part of the MS4 plan. So it is incumbent upon you to make sure that you review it. I'll double check to see whether that is, and that it gets considered. Just as a reminder, there aren't a lot of mays in there in terms of what we get to do. There's some suggested language, but they're all things that you're going to need to do as a town. It's canned in many respects. A lot of the effort was making sure that it reconciles with current code and what it's replacing. So I just want to reiterate how important it is, because if it doesn't get passed and you don't get approved downstate, you start to put things into question as to whether you're going to qualify, for instance, future CCMG grants, those kinds of things. So very important, and I'll follow up with Larry. It is indeed done, it is indeed circulated, but I'll follow up and make sure that each of you have that final copy if you don't.
Okay, thank you. Stop 15 ADA grant, due to insufficient NOAA funds, we did not receive the grant, so this can be removed from the agenda. Second reading of ordinance 2024, repealing ordinance number 2022-07, establishing term limits for appointments to town commissions, boards, and committees. I would just like to say this was, people sent most of their comments to me, I believe, and I have a rough analysis of it. And I could tell you that we got a total of 13 comments. That is 1% of our population. There were 4 in favor of repeal, and they clearly understood the ordinance. There were 9 against the repeal, but I could probably say that 6 of them did not understand the ordinance. And it seemed like most people would like to see term limits for elected officials. And I'm not sure that can be done by ordinance. Is that like a resolution?
Look into what your interpretation is. The one thing that is clear is the current ordinance does not apply to elected officials, but the county does have a few offices that are term limited and something that you'd consider for future, but it is not part of what you have already as part of the town code.
Okay, I will say, in my opinion, I think that our problem is getting people, not getting rid of people. We have a terrible time. People are not busting down our doors to be on committees. I think we could do a better job of letting people know what's available out there. Like maybe at the end of the year, we could, tell people in an email blast, look, we've got all kinds of committee openings coming up, and people that are interested. But just looking at the numbers of this, we've got 1,173 residents. So let's say of those, maybe 50% of those could be available to be on a committee. And of that 50%, then you gotta narrow it down even more to who might be available, who might be interested, who might have the time. And we've got in excess of 60 committee spots to fill. So with this really small population, in my opinion, we're just handcuffing ourselves by putting term limits on committees and boards. I'm not opposed to it. I don't think many people want to stay on anything very long because they're all volunteer positions. It's a lot of work. So in my opinion, I don't want to waste my 9 months remaining up here working on an ordinance that I think is useless, actually. So that's my opinion. Any other discussion?
You can go ahead. All right, I'll go. Again, I think from the beginning, I've been seeking clarification on kind of this ordinance. Coming in from the outside, having not been a part of any of the other previous committees, I never understood, let's say, kind of what the committees are and how many people and members, and the fact that many of them have terms in place for that period in time. And I think really what this is trying to address is time after time after time, year after year after year. And I'll just bring, let's call it one up, for instance, and I'll use Park Board. And I think I've brought this up before, that on the Park Board, if we look at Park and Rec requires 4 members. That's all. So it doesn't require more than that. It also is supposed to be staggered terms. So I think if we had put these in place each year, one person would come off with an opportunity of someone new. Now, if we look at our group now, we have 2, unfortunately for the community, we had 3 come off at once because of the election. But if we looked prior, we had some with the same year expiring, which is just us needing to be closer with what each committee requires. And there is some cleanup to this. But I think to Melanie's point, we have in place, let's call it the term ordinance that's already been created. I think it could be amended to include elected officials. I think it could be amended to give a period of time that your term could be 4 years or 1 year, but not to exceed 8 consecutive years in a span of 12 years or 10 years or whatever it might be. So I think there could be some amendments, but I don't think that we need to start from scratch because we already have this in place.
I'm fine if you want to take on that project, because I don't want to spend my 9 months here doing term limits.
Well, again, I would absolutely step in and make some suggestions. I think it's maybe 5 items I would edit that would clarify it, but I think we can work off of what exists from this sheet, from the current ordinance that's already in place.
So I'll just chime in, I just maybe for the benefit of people on Zoom or whatever. So for the park board, now correct me if I'm wrong, nobody expired at the same time.
Well, 3 came off this year is my
That's
point.
an anomaly but otherwise nobody there's 4-year terms and everybody rotates differently out. So the safety nets are already put in place, built into the original ordinance. And just for everyone's clarification, this current ordinance that we're talking about appealing has only existed for 24 months. Since the town has been around since 1936. We never had this ordinance. So for the past 24 months, it's existed, and I don't even think was really followed because still no one could interpret it. So it just because, in my opinion, just because it was put on for 24 months doesn't mean it needs to stay. I am all for doing a new one and considering that, but I think, just be honest, I'm gonna vote to get rid of this one because I think this one doesn't make sense. Anything that limits or restricts somebody's ability to volunteer for local government is not good. As Joy said, there's not a lot of people. They're hard jobs, they're thankless jobs, you run into a lot of problems. No, not a lot of people want these jobs. They're not jobs, you don't get paid. So in my opinion, this ordinance is so restrictive, you're actually telling people you cannot volunteer. So we can still do all the other things. We can still do, Meg's done a great job with communicating on emails lately, like what's before the council. And I know she's got great ideas to make that even better. So all the things to reach out, we can still do, and we can still look at another version of an ordinance going forward. But this thing as it exists now, all it does is tie the hands of somebody volunteering that wants to work. For example, on a committee that's pretty in-depth, like the APC and the BZA already have, and the park board already has rules put in place by the state we can't change. You can't have more than 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. You can't do this. On the BZA, you have to have somebody from this. So now we're also saying, oh, but now you already served and you might have been really good and you have the time and you're retired, but you have already done it 8 years. Well, what if, like, my dad, for example, has his MBA from Kellogg. He was on the budget and finance. He's not doing that anymore, but would you really say, like, your knowledge is great and you want to do it, but we're going to just go pick Joe off the corner of the street because we need a body? Like, that's not a way to run local government. So I feel like anything that restricts people from volunteering doesn't make any sense. So, and just for context too, like I said, I was going to clarify, but so we're just, so all the ordinances or all the committees already have term limits in place. You run for this, or you're appointed for 4 years or 3 years or 2 years. And then the safety of the council that was elected by the public then gets to decide again, do we want someone new or do we want to just keep this person? You're not automatically just rolled into another 4-year term or 3-year or whatever it may be. So so I think people, that was some of the confusion I think we saw in the emails, is people were thinking like, oh, these term limits just mean, so there are still term limits. Number one, people are appointed to a term for an amount of time. Then they can run again, or they can get appointed, not run again, but they can get appointed again or keep their name in the hat if they want. But this ordinance on the books says you can't do it again. You were great, we loved you, thank you, but now we're gonna make someone else do it who probably doesn't want, I just think that doesn't make sense. And just for clarity too, I checked with Michigan City, the clerk there who's been there for 32 years, they do not have, they are set up the way we have always been set up. They have no term limits. They have term limits in the sense of you are appointed to a 4-year term, a 3-year term, and then when that term is up, the mayor or the council decides if you still want to do the job, then they decide if they want you, and if not, they look for someone else, and they still may do that. So we are the only town that I know of in this small area that has this confusing, ridiculous, restrictive ordinance that actually restricts people who may want to volunteer in local government. Anything that's less restrictive to getting people to help in the town makes no sense. I think we need to be more inclusive, more whatever. We can still do all of that by not having an ordinance that limits us further, again, with things like you can't Zoom for more than 2 times in a row, and you can't miss more than a certain amount of meetings. And so a lot of times these committees are a lot of work. You can't just zoom in. It's not just zooming in and casting a vote. I mean, I was walking my dog Saturday in the pouring rain, and 2 people from the park board probably were out for 4 hours with landscapers quoting stops and prices and stuff. So somebody has to do that stuff. So everybody can't zoom in anyway. So there's all those limits too of who can even, you know, people say, oh, I'll just zoom in, but I'm in Florida 6 months out of the year. We can't have we need, a lot of these committees are super thankless, hardworking jobs that require a lot of work. Therefore, that's why we have 60 positions, and a lot of people have volunteered their time because they're not in high demand.
Okay, so if I can clarify just a few things, because there are, and this is, gosh, I feel like, is this the appropriate time to talk about them? But we do have 3 committees that have no terms. I know you mentioned them. APC is a 7-member with no term defined.
No, they have terms. APC has terms.
Well, I looked up Indiana code and I looked up our ordinance, Long Beach's ordinance. It does not identify a term for APC. It does not for BZA, and it does not for Building Commission. So in all 3 of our ordinances does not list a term. The other is we don't have an ordinance for Public Works, Community Center, or Budget and Finance that I could find that would establish terms for those either.
No, because they were never officially made committees.
Yeah, but I'm just clarifying that not all committees have terms is all I just wanted to clarify. And then, again, I think recently, I'll use Park Board, we have had an excellent candidate come forward to be a part of the Park Board. And that may not have had an opportunity to come forward, except that 3 vacancies did appear. And now I think we're excited for this candidate, a second candidate. I think we're gonna hear a 3rd candidate. Unfortunately, I think January and February is difficult to recruit people because it is the winter months and people do kind of go away. But again, I counted 40 people. I'm not 40 current committees, and the minimum staff that each committee requires is 40. That is not a lot that I think we can find.
There's a lot in this little town. You'd be surprised.
Well, but I'm just saying, I think there are people out there, and again, January, February was a tough time to try to recruit. I think we could do a better job with a community job fair, so people can know about it setting up, but there are people out there that do want to engage and they just haven't had the opening to do it. So really getting back to it though, this is really just setting term limits, not to the initial term that someone serves, but over the course of years. And that's really what this ordinance was put in place for.
I don't think this ordinance was put in place for that, but my opinion is, I think we should get rid of this ordinance, and if you want to write a new ordinance that is, you know, more all-encompassing of all of our committees. Now, we do have term limits on the BZA. I don't know where those came from, but we didn't make them up, so they came from somewhere.
Can I clarify for a second, just so that we're using not confusing terms? There aren't term limits for them. They have terms, defined terms. So BZA, APC, Park Board all have Indiana code statutorily imposed, which have been adopted. And if they're not clear, I don't know offhand, but if they're not clear by looking at the town code, it's because they've been incorporated by reference in the language that adopts the state code. But there are defined terms for those, which are 3 of the main and very important functions. Not that the rest aren't, but in terms of a lot of things that affect property, etc. But they are set.
Can I make a comment? Are you done, Joy? Number 1, Park Board the people have to be Long Beach residents, so that's even more restrictive on Park Board.
Except for BZA, I think.
Except for BZA.
And BZA.
And BZA. From the beginning, when this ordinance first came up, and I'm looking at John and I'm looking at Dr. LeMay is on Zoom, it was never really clear. And even when there were openings, there was a month when Mike Johnstone, who proposed this ordinance, was not there. and there were some openings, and none of the other aldermen wanted to even take this on, Mr. Coker and Ms. McFadden. It didn't understand and, make any sense, and Mike Johnstone will say, well, that's, ordinance C or something, but it was never very clear. And I do think that there has been very much over the years, and particularly with this council, we have tried to send emails. We've tried to put it on the website. These particular 5 council members, along with Meg, met in December when we still could meet without it being a violation of the Open Meetings Act. And it was made known by Joy then what committees had openings, what terms were in order, and what we were looking for. So December, January, February, and I would say that of the 5 council members, there are 2 that did not come up with one single name for any of the committees. So that goes to speak to this is not an easy thing to do. And I'm not going to continue to say, you can look back at history, and that's the importance of being involved in the town. You can walk into the town on January 1st and you can figure your way. But it certainly helps to have some background of how this town runs. And in that, I will toss in big kudos to Chief Swistek, because he has been so instrumental in helping this town run and helping all of us run this town better. And this makes no sense. And again, let's just get rid of it. And as Joy has said a couple times now, if Shannon wants to take it on and write something that makes sense, then let's do it. But we have a little town here. Many of us come from bigger towns, and even then, I worked for an alderman for 14 years. We had problems with committees and filling committees. So let's not push people out. We can keep people and we can make changes.
Okay, I'm going to hand it over to JD, but again, I'm going to go back to clarification because I love to clarify. During our meeting when we met, there was only one committee that was not going to meet quorum. And it was discussed that in this first year, what we needed to focus on was the park board, because 3 vacancies out of 4 would not allow that committee to meet quorum. We went through every other committee and said, we have quorum. That wasn't a focus to recruit. Now, I can also say that members on this committee that you may have pointed out have put forth names, whether they were not full-time residents, again, learning that person may not have qualified. Most recently, I went to Zach with qualification and I was told to go to Joy because he was taking vacation. So just clarifying, there are others that do put names forward, but due to qualifications. But that's not what this discussion really was about. It's about whether the current ordinance should be canceled. That's the discussion, not who's signing people up.
From my point of view, there is no doubt that this ordinance is flawed. There is no doubt that other ordinances within our code are flawed. What I also see, though, is section D, part 2, that says in the event the town council, its commissions, or members of its departments responsible for making appointments to town commissions, boards, committees, is or unable to identify an eligible candidate to serve in an appointed position, a member of a commission, board, or committee that is otherwise ineligible to serve on a commission, board, or committee due to term limits may be appointed or reappointed. Due to the term limits may be appointed or reappointed to such position until a replacement or new appointment is made. So, with all the flawed things we have, and Joy, I agree, with the 9 months we have, tackling a new ordinance that addresses everything is not in my bucket list either of the things that I would like to accomplish in 9 months. I still, given that provision, do not understand the urgency to repeal it now.
President Schmidt, yeah, this is Coker way back. Since I heard my name mentioned, could I just chime in here? I know I'm not in public discussion, but instead of ash cannon the ordinance, wouldn't it be easier, better to amend the ordinance, to get rid of all these nebulous things that I agree with are a little complicated, and make it simplified, but don't get rid of the ordinance so you have to reintroduce the whole thing all through the whole procedure again. Joy's correct that you only have 9 months on your term. You don't want to be wasting it, introducing an ordinance and refining everything. But if you could take Shannon's suggestion and get rid of some of this complicated issue, but points on that ordinance, and make it more simplified, I think that'll do well and solve what some of Anita's questions are and your other questions are. It's my thought. It'd be a lot easier to do it that way than just get rid of the whole ordinance and have to try to reintroduce a brand new one.
Can I give a point of clarification? That's the word of the night. And I'm not advocating for a position. You'll hear me say this ad nauseum. You're the decision makers. The process for this particular ordinance, unlike those that go before the APC or that change zoning and have to get published in the newspaper and go through process and multiple, your process is going to be the same, whether you amend this or introduce a new one. The only change will be because you did consider this, as I'm looking at the agenda, and my recollection is on first reading that if you vote to repeal it tonight, that is what makes it a done deal. But any amendments, any new ordinance, those will be, from a procedural standpoint, will be the same. You could pass those in one meeting. You could do them over two if you chose to separate the two meetings. And so, again, I give that for your benefit so you can make informed decision of what you're doing.
Yeah, the next agenda item we're talking about is the deer ordinance Chris wrote in less than 30 days. It was not a lot of time. If it's not complicated as this is, and it's simpler things, I say bring that to the table, we'll vote on that, but it wasn't very taxing on anyone's system or checkbook to get that done, and this wouldn't be either. Like, it was a pretty easy process. Again, I'm not volunteering for it because don't think it's necessary, but it isn't going to be a hard process, is my point.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, with that, I'm going to make a motion that we repeal ordinance 2027-07 establishing term limits for appointments to town commissions, boards, and committees. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
No.
3-2, the motion passes. Okay, ordinance number 2024, adding Title 9, Chapter 90, Section 90.07, prohibition against feeding deer. Kendra.
Okay, let me get my paperwork out and put that one away.
We got the hard one out of the way, these should go easy.
Right. Maybe more controversial. So, I'll sort of reiterate how Joy started. I did keep track as well as of emails. I had 21 responses that were favorable to this ordinance. One, actually, that someone told Joy. I didn't get the email, but someone told Joy. And then I had 2 that I would consider unsure, just more were conversational, asking questions. But again, I totally appreciate the comments, read all of them, responded to everybody, good or pro, con, or whatever. But again, like Joyce said, it's less than 1% of the voting population, residential population, however you want to look at it. So, it was so great. I think, Meg, again, your emails to the town, letting people know what's in front of the council was much appreciated. A lot of people, I didn't know any of these people, and it was nice that they were engaging. So I think that was definitely a positive. People are paying more attention. So I can read the ordinance again. basically, should I go through it and read? We had some changes. Should I read it out loud?
Because some changes were made, are we going to post the most recent one and then vote on it?
I think we should. Especially if we have discussion tonight
Yeah,
I would-
because it was rewritten very well.
Well, I would, guide me if how I do this, Chris, but I would, I would like to pass the ordinance tonight and not wait in a whole nother month. Because the only thing that changed is we added the word intentionally one more time, and we changed the height of a bird feeder from 6 feet to 5 feet. So I personally, I want this ordinance in place for a reason, and it's already February. If we post it till March, this will be April when we vote on this.
Could you?
I'm in the wrong month. Well, it's gonna be a long time.
Could you just read the
Yes.
sentences that were changed where?
So there is a red line version too. Do you have access
I
to
don't have
that?
the, wait, I might, hold on. I'm old, I like my printed copies. I brought the clean version. Yeah, I do have the red line here. But Chris, maybe pull up your clean version of the red line, because I know for sure, let's start with, if you guys have it in front of you, section B, where it says at the bottom, it says a person shall be presumed to have intentionally fed deer or made food available for consumption by deer if the person places food or causes food to be placed on the ground, outdoors, or on any outdoor platform that stands fewer than 6 feet above the ground. And it did say 5, so that's the one red line spot. So section B changes from 5 feet to 6 feet. And then I don't have the other part, the intent.
So the material changes subsection C. It now reads,
Right.
for the purpose of this section, the following items shall constitute and be defined as food unless excluded or otherwise permitted, which then goes through the list of corn, fruit, oats, hay, nuts, wheat, alfalfa, salt blocks, grain, vegetables, commercially sold wildlife and or livestock feed, and any other seed, including but not limited to bird seed intentionally placed on the ground or other surfaces. So that one probably is the most.
That's right.
Otherwise, subsection E, number 4, changes the height from 5 to 6 feet, and those are the changes from what was posted and shared publicly last month.
Yeah.
And that's
Thank
based
you.
on comments, feedback, etc.
I have a comment.
Yep.
My only comment is on C, when it says commercially sold wildlife and or livestock feed and any other seed, including but not limited to bird seed, intentionally placed on the ground or other surfaces. I know there are people who, for example, feed squirrels, and they put nuts on their, railing of their decks. Is that going to get them a fine?
Well, I'm not gonna be the officer in charge, but I would hope not. It's intentionally placed on the ground. We have, areas around us where, bags of birdseed are dumped on the ground. Gallons of birdseed. So I think the word intentionally would, supersede that. And I didn't introduce this ordinance and don't expect any officers to be creeping around people's backyards and looking on decks and seeing if a picnic table has a nut on it. It's if someone complains and has an issue, a nuisance neighbor, resident area that they think is overpopulated, what's going on back there, can you check it out? Or we see lots of deer in this area, whatever, or this is happening at this house, can you check it out? And then I would think the police would go check it out, and if it's intentionally they're fed, then that would be an offense that they would get a warning letter and then a fine. But I would hope not, and I don't think that Mark's direction will be to the officers to go creeping around people's backyards, measuring bird feeders or looking for little nuts. We have bird feeders all over too. It's literally the word intentional, and feedings of the grain, the corn, the barrels of corn, there's salt licks out, there's bags of bird feed being dumped on the grounds, that is intentional. That's just not a little, nut or whatever. So I would, that's not my intent with the ordinance, and I think it's pretty clear how it's worded in the word intentional.
Okay, I did see about 20 deer behind your house on my way here.
I'm sure you did.
I do have a comment on it, and I did rewrite it and send it to Kendra. I didn't rewrite it, added in words. I think it's really important that the word intentionally, which I made a lot of, I put that in a lot because I think it needs to be clear that I do think that, I don't want to use the word targeting, but there are several people in Long Beach who continually feed them. And when Kendra refers to gallons and bags being dumped, and I believe that Chief has identified some of those people and has tried to talk to them. I don't want to be, micromanaging our town for people feeding squirrels, and if they throw apples out their window because the apples are rotten, and so gosh, maybe deer eat them. And I just think that it needs to be a prohibition against intentionally feeding deer. And I also, I want that to be clear to people that it's intentional. It's not anyone looking around. The other thing is, and I did bring this up in C, I think that people use seed blocks, and I wanted that to be put in there with salt blocks. And I just think that whole litany of corn, fruit, oats, hay, nuts, wheat, alfalfa, what if people decorate for for Halloween, and they have hay bales out, and then we put the hay somewhere, and I just think that if we just limit it, and if we make sure that people know this is intentional feeding, that it will give the police a little bit more teeth to them maybe talking to people. They're not going to go in and give a ticket immediately, but just to go talk and try and be a little friendly. So I will push a little bit more for intentional. I'll push for seed blocks, and I just don't understand the litany of everything that we can not put out on our railings or our backyard.
Well, let me just say, I think, I heard two things, Anita, because I clarified, and then that...
There's that word.
What?
Clarified.
That's not the intent for, if you throw out an apple, and that's why the word intentionally exists. So, and then you said, are people getting in trouble for throwing out an apple or having, a bay of hail? But we just said that would not be intentional. Everyone has common sense. The police aren't going to think a bay of hail with a scarecrow on it for Halloween is not anything but what it is, a bay of hail for Halloween. So we have the word intentionally, and I did defer to Chris for legally, are we covered? Does that make sense? And he said it did. So I'm going to stand by this as it reads to get this passed. But I think it's pretty much common sense. We cover all the bases, and no one's looking to get anyone in trouble for an apple or anything like that. And I guess, Chris, can you just speak? Are we covered with the word intentionally legally? We have the word intentionally in there already.
It's only in there once, and I would like to see it in the prohibition against intentionally feeding deer. I'd like to see seed blocks in there, and I would like to see some of that other stuff taken out. I just think it needs to be very clear that this is directed toward people that intentionally feed the deer and the turkeys and whatever else is in our neighborhood.
Well, to answer the question posed to me, I think that you're covered. I understand the efforts, and I think I discussed this in my communications to want to reiterate the intention under subsection A. It does specifically prohibit the intentional feeding, and then subsection B references intentionally placed on the ground. For me, my writing style isn't to be redundant. That isn't a negative or slight on what your preference is. It's ultimately the council's preference and what you'd like to do. But in terms of keeping it lean and having that, I think the prohibition is clear from my perspective.
Do I make a motion to continue discussion?
Good, because people do buy those big seed blocks at Brands.
We have including seed.
It says seed and not
seed.
limited to.
It says, and any other seed.
Yeah, but, well.
Yeah, but it says seed and any other seed. So seed block, any other seed.
Yep.
Any other seeds in there.
Then we
limited
have
to.
salt blocks, we don't have salt. So I just think people buy seed blocks, and I just think that it would be very intentional. And that's just my opinion.
On the third intentionally.
I did too.
All right, we're up to 3 intentionally then.
Yes.
Well, if I'm following procedure correctly, and since I appreciate all the comments and aren't necessarily opposed to having the word seed block in here, I'm more adamant about getting this passed tonight and not delaying it for another month to add the word seed block. So if I'm allowed to make a motion, or do you have to do that, Joy?
No.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to pass this ordinance as is.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussions?
Can I
you say you
clarify
were
before we move forward? So I want to remind you of procedure. When you say pass this and as is,
It's good.
if your intention is to have it considered, suspend the rules, you should make that motion to suspend the rules for 2 readings and have it considered in the night of introduction, which is tonight, so that has to pass unanimously. And if it doesn't, then you have to do 2 readings, and that will be over 2 different meetings. So your motion would be to have this considered and for passage in the same night as its introduction. Because normally your code says that it takes 2 readings, and to do that, you need to have that over 2 different meetings, which is what you just did, for instance, with the term limits. You did not have unanimous consideration to pass it all in one night, and that was the meeting at which it was introduced at, which is why it took, and again, there's nothing wrong with either process, just clarifying with what your intention is. So that your motion would have to be that the rules will be suspended for this to be considered and passed in the same night as its introduction.
So I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules. So we can move forward with a vote to pass this ordinance.
It could be all together, but it would be Kendra's motion is what's out there, right? So just amend it with that language, yeah.
So,
Is it that important that it be passed in 1 reading?
well, I don't want to wait another month.
Well, I didn't want to wait another month for term limits last time either, but we did.
Well, it's not,
Well, to get it off center, you can make your motion and then you'll see what the vote is.
Okay.
Make the motion to
okay,
suspend.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and ask for a vote to pass this on
In the same night as
in the same night as the introduction.
I second.
Any discussion?
Are we adding the word seed blocks?
No.
No.
We're good with seeds, but not limited to bird seed.
How many intentionals?
3.
There's 3 intentionally.
Want a fourth?
This is, so all in favor?
Finding it funny, but thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion, we've got a second. All in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. And I'm only opposed to 1 reading,
Okay.
not opposed to the ordinance.
Right.
Okay. So this carries on till next.
Well, now you make a motion to pass it on first reading as is, and that'll just be a regular, or somebody can.
Okay, I'd like to make another motion now to pass this ordinance as is on first reading.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Passes on first reading.
Need notes for that.
I know, that was a workout.
2 months in.
That's the last ordinance I'm ever doing.
Okay, we've got committee openings. We've got 2 presidential appointments. One was on the BZA. Bob LeMay stepped forward and volunteered for a 4-year term. And Diana Holt stepped forward and volunteered for 1 4-year term on the Advisory Plan Commission. So as presidential appointments, I will appoint Bob LeMay to the BZA, Diana Holt to the APC. The park board, we have one opening. Shortly after our last council meeting, we received information from Margaret Eggleston. Shannon, I know last night you sent us a name, but I never got any information from him.
Yeah, he was looking for a form. I apologize. I just said send you an email.
Yeah, but still, since I don't really have a reason to not approve Margaret. And nothing against Paul. I mean, Paul has been to some park board meetings, and, you know, he's a great guy, but we'll keep him in mind. So the park board, we've got Margaret Eggleston, and this is a council appointment. It's a 2-year term. I would make a motion to approve Margaret to the park board for 2 years. Do we have a second for discussion?
I'll second that motion to appoint her.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we still have one opening on the Fire Commission, a citizen member. If anyone knows of anyone who'd like to be on the Fire Commission, that's a 1-year term. And our Community Center Maintenance and Daily Operations Committee is still looking for one more person. Sit on committees, radar speed limit sign update, Chief.
Over the last month, everybody's reviewed the emails that we received. It's kind of been a mixed bag of support and opposition. I did not keep track of the individual emails. I apologize for that. However, as presented at last month's meeting, the sign would replace the current speed limit sign on Chastleton Drive. The sign is specifically designed to give driver feedback. I know myself, when traveling through the town of Trail Creek, when I get near one of those signs and I look up and see what my speed is, and that sometimes it reminds me that, oops, I'm going over 30 just slightly. So it is a good reminder. Chastleton is one of our busiest roadways in the town. Again, this would cost the town nothing. Everything would be paid for by the prosecuting attorney out of his traffic deferral program. And it is totally up to the council, your decision, if we would like to move forward with placing the new radar sign on Chastleton Drive.
I had one comment.
Yes.
Is the speed limit sign based on the radarsign.com site, the TC 400? Because it shows 4 different sizes of speed limits.
We would be getting the 600, the TC 600.
Is there a thought to the 400? And I only bring that one up. For those that haven't been online to see it, it actually is a portable unit and it mounts underneath the speed limit sign. Now again, I don't know much about our posts to know the compatibility of a post. But if we went with the 400, it actually says it's portable and can move to various different stop signs. So maybe the use could help both Moore Road, Chastleton, Lakeshore Drive, and it could be then transported to different stop signs throughout the summer months when it is at its highest kind of travel time. So just a thought, if it's an option and it is smaller in size, and again, it just mounts to the same existing speed limit sign just underneath it. Just a thought.
What does Trail Creek have? Because I went and looked at that the other day. I didn't.
They have the 600s, as do other communities. They use the TC 600.
What was the 600?
My recommendation would be that we stay with the 600 only because there's just a 2-inch difference between the two signs. We will be deploying the radar trailer, obviously in other neighborhoods as we have in the past, Lakeshore Drive, Golden Gate Drive, some of the intersections that we see increased traffic. We still will have to mount, our own speed limit sign, posting what the speed limit is for that roadway, and then the new radar sign would be below that. and the post installation. We have to do a whole new setup with that as well, which that'll be handled in-house by our street department crew.
It's all on the same post though, right?
All on the same
Just like
post.
Trail Creek's, it's got the metal, and then you got the digital, and then you got the speed limit sign, and then that solar thing above it?
That's correct. The solar panel, which will be tilted, giving the, coordinates of where we pick up the most sun for the day. And then the other comments that we received were the red and blue lights on it. They're just a very small LED light. It's not like a normal light bar on top of a police car, where you're gonna see this thing from Highway 12 or that. It's just very small LED round lights that just give a very faint red and blue indication on the sign. Now, one of our deputies, I won't give his name, one of our deputies who lives in Trail Creek actually is across from one of these signs, and he says, "Chief, it's directly across from my driveway, and I wouldn't even know it's there." He goes, the lights do not interfere with, him and his wife watching TV at night or sitting in their living room. It puts off very low light emission, so it's not going to be disruptive to the neighborhood whatsoever. And the other thing is where we place it, we will make sure that, we coordinate in between driveways or residents that it doesn't interfere with anything as well, so.
I have another question. Is the grant from the prosecutor's office dependent on where we place it, or is that our choice?
That is our choice. He has chosen to support the town with the purchase of one sign, and we can place the sign wherever we would like to place it.
Yeah, Chief, I guess, Kendra, my apologies. Is there any other place than kind of right there in that view corridor is our front door? Is there any other place farther up Chastleton, anywhere else where it could go that is less noticeable than the proposed area?
On Chastleton, I'd probably say no, just because where we're proposing to place it would allow our officers from a distance to monitor it as well. The farther north we get on Chastleton, it's a little bit more difficult. There's more homes there, and then we have obviously the top of the hill there at Oriole and Chastleton. So I'm trying to place it in a location where our officers could be stationary from a distance and observe the sign as well. Because we do radar patrol Chastleton Drive quite a bit, so.
But we have a sign farther north by Shorewood that suggests that emergency vehicles will have an ingress, egress.
For the fire trucks currently, yes, coming out of the street department garage.
Something that far up is not an option. That would inhibit our police officers from using their radar?
No, it won't prevent us from using our radar. We're just looking at areas where we can get off of the roadway onto the shoulder and kind of monitor where we're going to place the sign at, so, as well. So if we wanted to do some traffic enforcement, we could always patrol Chastleton as we do now with our moving radars in our car, and as cars approach us, we pick up their speed, coming and going, so.
Is there a thought to put this digital one on Moore Road and ask Michigan City to put one, let's call it just coming up to Hacienda? Because many speeders are even before the Hacienda and they're turning into Hacienda. It's not just as much coming into the beach, they just may not slow down because you're going from 30 to 25. So maybe if we ask Michigan City to look at the courts, let's call it area, and then we put ours on the Moore Road issue.
I believe Michigan City Board of Works was approached before about Moore Road, and Becky could probably comment on that, because I believe they approached Michigan City Board of Works about Moore Road previously, so.
We did, and they were considering it, and...
That's with the mic.
Thank you for asking me to come. Thank you for asking me to comment. We did go to the Michigan City Public Works committee meeting several times, and they were considering it at the time. I think it was 2 years. I think you were just leaving Michigan City and coming here or something. You were here already? All right. But it was decided to table the discussion, and then we sort of lost, But it would be nice to have the sign, and I know you have the portable one, the trailer that's gone. It's maybe spent 2 weeks in the summertime on Moore, but the most time it's spent is after Labor Day or before Memorial Day, and that's really not the issue as far as kids being in danger. I'd love to revisit it, and I would be glad to come with gobs of information.
Chief, the only other question that I have is, if the sign is erected, can it also have other signs on it? No parking on public streets, contractors must register, kind of have yeah, we're working on we'll get to the welcome sign later, Kendra, maybe welcome in somewhere too, but kind of a slow down, kind of a aggregate sign of what we're at, is to consolidate some of the necessary things that we must have, but not necessarily the most aesthetic.
Off the top of my head, to answer your question, I do not believe anything else can go on a speed limit sign. I have to believe it's by the Uniform Traffic Code. I believe it's just specific to the speed itself. I think Chris might even be Googling it right now. If not, we'll have to research it. But to my knowledge, I believe on speed limit signs, you only can have the speed limit itself, because under my understanding is that you want the sign clear, precise, to the point, speed limit, what it is, not a lot of other obstructions on the post about, you know, no parking and other things on it. Just like we have signs indicating where the Long Beach Country Club is, they are green municipal signs. Typically by the Uniform Traffic Code, the informational signs are green in nature, you know, yield signs are the yellow in nature, stop signs are red. So the Uniform Traffic Code kind of dictates what signs can and cannot be. And I believe, and I would have to research it, but I believe on speed limit signs, it's only for speed limit on that particular sign post itself. So, even blinking ones, yes. So,
Can you explain again, because I tried to ask, or had a little conversation with Tom, and I was investigating the Trail Creek one, but I think you said before, I had the impression that it wasn't movable. But to me, it looks like it's sort of movable.
We can
like
move it.
we could, okay,
We
so
can move it,
if
because
we
there's
could
no-
maybe do 6 months on Moore Road and then 6 months on Chastleton, or
just takes the time of the staff having to take the pole down, you know, reinstall it somewhere else. There's no electric needs. Everything's solar. There's solar panel on internal batteries that power it up. So it can be moved, but it's one of those things, you know, how often do you want to move it? And then again, the more you move it, the more likely to damage it and do other things to it as well. So,
okay.
But it can be movable.
The limit is to traffic control only. To the speed limit.
Well, if, I mean, I'm just thinking it sounds like it's something I would be in favor for because it's free and it's movable, and if ever we thought it was not in a good place, we could move it or take it down altogether even, right? I mean, we're not, I don't know why we would, but I'm saying like, it's given to us, and then once we get it, we can do whatever we want with it. But I like the idea that that's movable, because I grew up at Stop 29, and my kids now are teenagers, and now we live at 22. But I know exactly what you're talking about on Moore Road, because they went to school in Notre Dame, and they used to ride their bikes to school every day. And I would just like pray when they turned that corner that somebody wasn't flying over the hill right when they, and then. Oh, okay. Oh. I was just chit-chatting. I'm done.
And to that point, to that question, is Moore Road a more pressing need than Chastleton?
With the school? And the blind hills?
Well, we could get the sign and then continue that discussion later after Mark investigates. Is that an option?
Do we have two signs? I mean, you've got a sign in a garage, you said?
Isn't there already a portable trailer?
Oh, that big tire thing?
Yeah, it's a portable radar trailer. It's on two standard, you know, tires off of a regular automobile. It sits about 4 feet wide. We have to pull it with the trailer hitch. It is mobile. We set it up in various roadways throughout. You know, again, as to some of the comments made tonight, we're limited in where we can place it because we have 3 communities that we place the radar trailer in. We police 3 communities, so we have to place the radar trailer in the 3 different communities that ask for the radar trailer. So it's limited on certain streets and times that we get it out. But you know, the sign itself that's proposed, again, truly at the pleasure of the council. I just gotta let the prosecutor know if we're moving forward with the purchase or not.
So I would like to agree with Kendra. I think because of the cost, I'm still up for discussion on where it should go as a priority. Again, I'm not opposed to us doing some research, Chief, and looking at what the cost of the TC400 is. In addition to the free one, if we were to look to buy it, it does clearly say portable radar sign, and it is intended to be mounted to the existing speed limit rather than get the big one out. Maybe that one can move around to Duneland and Michigan, all the other locations that we do patrol. Again, Lakeshore Drive even. But we could move forward with the 600 because again, it's through grant money to use it. And then we just discuss if it makes more sense on Chastleton where the school traffic is or Moore Road where the school traffic or Chastleton where.
I just want to say that I live at Florimond in Hazeltine, so things have been quiet with the club under construction. And I come in, I know Moore Road and there are no stop signs, so it's hard for the police to stop, but the club will be reopened. The traffic that comes in is fast, and I think that it's a warning to people, and it's going to be, it's, again, spring, and some people don't live on areas that are heavily trafficked. I happen to. Hazeltine, Florimond, Oakenwald, and Larchmont, and then people cut down Fox Trail to go down to the club, and, I just see it as slow down a little bit, and I'm totally in favor of it on Chastleton.
We could approach Michigan City or the county prosecutor. We could ask Michigan City.
Can I remind, just if you're going to take, you obviously get to do that, we have to have a microphone to have Alpha there.
Sorry, I shouldn't have.
Okay.
It's just discussion.
Okay, any more discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with the radar speed limit sign and for the time being place it on Chastleton with further discussion.
I'll second that for discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Town welcome signs, JD.
The feedback that we got, I forwarded to the rest of the council. We are in the process of getting organized to start discussions about alternatives, and we'll get back to the council after we meet and what next steps are after we discuss.
Thank you. New business, Notre Dame St. Patrick's Day 5K Color Run.
This is an annual event. It'll be held on Saturday, March 23rd, starting at 8 a.m. from Notre Dame School, north on Moore Road, through the Long Beach community, and then back to the Notre Dame campus. I recommend that we allow the run to once again be held this year. Also, the organizers have approached the Michigan City Board of Public Works and are seeking their approval as well as the Town of Long Beach approval. So my recommendation is to pass the request.
I would make a motion to allow the Notre Dame St. Patrick's Day 5K Color Run to occur in Long Beach.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Election, May 7th, 2024. Approve LaPorte County to use the community center.
This request comes before this board during any election. We have allowed them to use the community center in the past to allow Long Beach residents to vote at the community center. My recommendation would be to allow the use on May 7th for the LaPorte County Election Board to use our facilities.
I believe they need access the night before.
Correct.
Is that correct? Is we have somebody that's going to let them in?
Yes, we handle that in-house with them. Not a problem, we'll take care of it.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve the use of the community center for the election on May 7th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, responsibilities of committee chairs. Anita?
This is just a reminder to the committee chairs, whether we're on Zoom or whether we're here on council, that it is up to the committee chairs to manage dates and times on the Long Beach website. It's up to you to contact Meg. Meg, anybody else when they want to change a date? Is it just you or is it you and Chief?
You could just put myself and Deanna Carlson probably.
And Deanna,
because
okay.
we send notice to the paper. That's kind of the sending notice is important,
Okay.
I believe.
Thank you. So it's up to the chair to manage the dates and times on the Long Beach website with emails to Meg and Deanna. It's up to the chairs to prepare an agenda. It's up to chairs to contact members. It is not up to Chief, it's not up to Renee, it's not up to Meg, and it's not up to Deanna. So just the chairs.
And if you send agendas, if you are the chair of a committee, the sooner you can get those, we're making an effort to be more timely. Now that I am working more, before I was elected, it was more sporadic, but now I'm trying to make a big push to get things up when I receive them, so.
I would encourage anybody that has questions to reach out to the clerk treasurer or chief or myself, just as we did as you were incoming, to provide some of that organizational information. And I think it's probably, I don't want to jump the gun on things that you might address later, but for those committees, boards, some things that are not set forth via code, so somebody may have a question as to what their duties are. So if you're not sure, but notices, I want to point out, there are time restraints requirements that are there. There's also if the if meetings are set, you have the ability to give a one-time notice to the newspaper, because they're an ALCO, for instance, even though you contract with them, so that you don't have to provide them with notice and courtesy notices, and there are certain things that need to be published. Most boards, committees don't need that. It's more important for public hearing type events. So there's a lot to learn. So if you're not sure, I just want to encourage everybody to ask. And Zoom, although that's a possibility, a resolution needs to be passed by each board committee. If you're not sure, if you're conducting town business, you're subject to open door law. You can't just meet. And agendas need to be present and set out at a minimum before the meeting starts. So I'll help wherever I can. I just want to piggyback to some of that. There's some nuances here that everybody needs to be aware of, and they're important. They may not seem important until someone makes an open door violation complaint, and then we have an issue, and clerk's office and town administrator are scrambling to answer for that.
And I think along with that, if you don't have any new business to discuss or any other reason to cancel, just to email so that we can get the cancellation up as well, and let the rest of the board members know that you are canceling for whichever reason.
Okay. Noise nuisance ordinance and enforcement. Not sure who that is.
Me.
Oh, Anita.
So summer is coming, spring is coming, and this actually pertains town-wide, but specifically to probably a couple of homes on Lakeshore Drive. And Chief is aware of the issues, and people have been talked to, and not just by Chief, but by neighbors who have asked. It's music, it's objectionable music, it's just constant music, it's loud music. And part of it is, again, it goes back to, we own the beach in front of you, and so if we can drive you away with noise, then we'll all be happy. It makes it very uncomfortable for people. We all have a right to be down there. So it's just something that I wanted to start bringing up so that it's on the record, that people can feel free to call the police chief if they, I do know several people personally who have talked to the owners of a couple of the homes. The music gets turned down. By the time they get to the beach, it's turned back up again. So I am just looking for a little direction, Chief, from you on how to approach this coming.
Thank you for bringing this topic up. As you are aware, we do have quite a few homes that are repeat offenders, unfortunately, and I've had those heart-to-heart conversations with some of those homeowners for a time period. Things improve, but then it seems like they forget the previous conversation, or I hear, the children were over this weekend and they had the music turned up. I would encourage our residents to please call us on our non-emergency number. This way, every call we get, be specific to the address of the home that has the loud music, because then what I can use when it comes time that we have to issue an actual ordinance violation, we go back into our calls for service, and in that log I can show we had 6 calls in the last 6 weeks. We gave you warnings all the other times, and now we finally had to give you a paying citation. This way, when it goes to civil court, it'll help the town attorney. If we do have to go to court, let's say the homeowner decides I'm not going to pay the fine, then we have to take civil action as a town. And then this way, at least we have our calls for service, because what our deputies will do when they go to the home and they clear the call, they will actually type on the computer inside their car some comments. I spoke to Mr. Swistek, advise Mr. Swistek the next time that we visit 2400 Oriole Trail, we're going to issue a citation. And then this way we can print out the calls for service, and we have a log of events that occurred in recent weeks or months that we can use for enforcement action. So please call us. That's what we're here for, and we don't mind, especially in the late evening hours. Anything after 10 p.m. and that, we got to be respectful of our neighbors, and we shouldn't be blaring our music.
Thank you. Town right away, Anita?
This is on because there was a back and forth with a homeowner, and it had to do with Woodruff and working on the water project. And it became fairly unpleasant about what's their property and what's not their property. And I just wanted to let Chief chat for a minute about what is the town right of way, what is allowed on the Long Beach town right of way by agents and employees. This particular homeowner directed that no council members be allowed on her property, and I don't want to go on her property, nor do I think many council members want to. So I just wanted to give Chief an opportunity to just let us know town right of way when work is being done and what is expected of homeowners.
As everyone's aware, the town has quite a few large projects that are underway. We usually don't have so many large projects in one particular year underway, but we do currently. So it's kicked up some conversation as to the town's right-of-way, what can or cannot be on the town right-of-way. My advice to residents is if it's within the right-of-way, don't place anything on the right-of-way, because the town has the right to go into that area and remove anything that is encroaching on the right-of-way. We had to do that on both the stormwater project that's underway and the water service improvement project in Lakeshore Drive. The objects or the landscaping that was removed, we placed it off to the side and told the homeowners they're responsible to place it back into its original location. If they chose to do so and we had to come through again, we're going to remove it again. So every roadway, the right-of-way is a little bit different, in most larger cities and that, it's kind of the utility poles is where the right-of-way goes, and we always tell people, all the way up to the NIPSCO pole off of the roadway, typically you don't want to encroach on those areas and that. So we still continue to see residents that have encroachments on the right-of-way. Lakeshore Drive, as you go from stop 13 to 31, there's a lot of, encroachments along Lakeshore Drive. That roadway kind of zigzags in and out. now because it gets tighter and tighter. And as we all know, in the summer months with the people on bicycles and strollers and golf carts, especially on the weekends, it's kind of hard to navigate through there. So if you're ever in doubt what is or is not the roadway, reach out to us. We will come out. We will take a look. Tom Dolph, he's been our street superintendent, been with us 32 years, and he's the expert when it comes to the town's right-of-way. In fact, the one resident in question, after receiving several emails from that resident, I sent Tom out there to take a look at it, and Tom confirmed that, in fact, the area that the resident was referring to as their private parking space was actually the town's right-of-way that they've been parking on for many years, and we were laying down gravel in there to work on the project because we have the right to be in that area and to conduct work. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much it, is that, you know, if in doubt, please call us and we will assist in identifying the town's right of way.
I just want to add, because this has come up before on, you know, other big projects, that the town is unique in many respects because rights of way are a lot of time in easement. So Michigan City and the way that the property is. Long Beach is unique in many, if not most instances, is the roads were platted and they're actually owned by the town. So these rights of way and going further, it isn't, especially, I shouldn't say especially, Lakeshore Drive is where that issue came up most recent for some of these projects and the contemplated projects before that. So it's very important. And the other thing is that despite what some may think, you can't take the town's property, and there's code on that. So whereas there's a taking or a condemnation for, or adverse possession type things. Adverse possession type things are not, it's not going to be a basis. I'm not advising anybody legally, and anybody can address that however they'd like to, but you know, I do agree. I think the best resolution is, when in doubt, to talk to the town administrator and the street department and generate the discussion that way.
Thank you.
No, you know, especially Lakeshore Drive, and understanding that there can't be a situation of takings on public property, and to the extent, probably not even conveyance. Do people get regularly noticed that, hey, your landscaping is encroaching public property, and it may not be impacted in these current large projects that are going on, but should a project come through, perhaps like paving Lakeshore Drive to provide an area for people to walk, this is in the way. Has that happened in recent memory? Notification?
No, I don't think so. And part of the problem is also their driveways are all there, come up to the road, so it's a sticky wicket. But I agree. I mean, Lakeshore Drive is starting to look like an alley, and it's getting skinnier and skinnier all the time.
Next year, both paving project, there's going to be some change.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Any more discussion on right away? Okay, town email blasts. Meg started this last time, and I think people really liked it, and we liked it, but it did get a little overwhelming in having to respond. So maybe we can come up with an easier way. Like JD, I liked your idea of, comments coming in and they go to everybody on the council, and maybe a statement response goes out saying, everyone's comments will be considered. Or do we want to continue responding to everyone? I know it's hard for the chief. He had to do a lot of responding, and it takes a lot of time away from his job. I mean, I don't mind, I have the time, but I know a lot of people have jobs.
I think the auto response may...
I think it's a very good idea, and I think that if a resident really wants to talk with a council member, they can come to a meeting or they can attend by Zoom and speak at public comment. I think that residents, if we can get one email, a comments email like JD thought of, that goes to the 5 of you, there's an auto reply that it was received, nobody needs to respond back, yet you guys read the comment and process it and take it into consideration.
And of course, anybody can respond if they want.
I do think under this, as a council, you guys could discuss and help me with deciding, do we want to help residents along? You know, we post the agenda. The things that we email blasted this last time were items we knew were that residents care about. So I think, and there was every indication at that last meeting that the council members were okay being, you know, we could have done it in a better way, that you didn't need to respond back, but giving them a chance to be heard about and giving a notice about those particular topics. So I just need direction if the other topics come up that you would like sent out. I'm not sure the right way to handle that between my office and the council. So that's just what we'll kind of work on.
Okay, maybe you and I can work on like a standard response and we can send it to everybody
Right.
and get their comments and feedback.
Yeah. And just if you want something sent out as a council, then you just need to let me know. And if I want something out, I probably typically would run that past at least Joy. So.
And I encourage everyone to sign up for the email blasts. We did get a comment that somebody thought we should send out a bi-weekly newsletter in the mail, which sounds really expensive and time-consuming to me, and I don't know who would do that. But
A little archaic too. I mean, it's costly too.
Yeah. So I really encourage anybody who wants to know anything that's going on to get on the town email list, which is...
And I recently helped 2 residents navigate the website. I'm happy to do that with anybody. So you can call, you can email me if you're having trouble or you want some direction finding ordinances or signing up for the email. I believe we have around at least 800 emails through the website. I've discussed with our IT folks that the way that the town used to communicate with Bill Defuniak's emails, you can only send so many out at one time. So it would have to be upkept. So that email list, whereas the website, people can sign up, they can take their own name off, you know, they can unsubscribe. So that is probably the most accurate, up to date. I just need to make sure everybody's receiving it. Melanie, did you ever check if you actually got that email?
Yep. Microphone.
Yes.
And so hand it.
Road closure.
that was a mistake on my part, Melanie. I'm sorry. It did not go
Okay, I just want to make sure that nothing's wrong with the website. If you're signed up and you're not getting emails, that's a problem. So
reminder to the community, the things they can sign up for on the e-alerts is town alerts. So any activity going on in the town, it'll be an emergency email that goes out. There is the town council minutes. So following our meetings, we can push those out to you if you choose to sign up for those.
Which we do not currently do. So if the council wishes to do that, then that's a decision we need to make.
Okay, it's an option.
Renee put that on to try it out to see, but we haven't currently tried that out. So currently you can get emergency, urgent alerts that someone like chief or the police department sends out.
And then news or announcements is the other category you can check the box for.
Yes, so if you want all town info, the minutes one doesn't mean much right now, but those top 2, you should click those. And the agenda, those both don't mean anything right now. Well, they might sometime if we decide to do it but.
Joe, if I could just add a quick comment. One of the things we were proposing this year, we're due for the 3rd or 4th quarter of this year, our website, the town website, is going to have an upgrade. It's from Civic Plus, our website host. One of the things we talked about is we could develop a postcard. We could do a mailing to all the homes in Long Beach, kind of talking about signing up for, the alerts and that. So if that's something you want to do, it'd probably cost us, $600 to send out the postcard to all the residents and that. But we could do that later on this year as it gets closer to the upgrade of the website. And then I agree with Clerk Collins, we get away from the previous town email list and we utilize the website for our communication portal. That's the best way to do it. And then the residents just have to go to longbeachin.org to sign up. That would be my recommendation.
And to add to that, there currently is no ongoing email list anymore.
Good.
So
Yeah.
it's gone.
No, I would agree because it wasn't up to date.
But I can export the town emails, so.
But we do have 800 people on an email list.
Correct, so it.
I mean, that's 68% of the population, that's
Right, it's a good number. We just added, Renee and I took the time to add 200 that were on an old list, so that added a lot. So some people probably got their first email from the town ever, or in a really long time.
Okay, thank you. Tony Klein Ridge Road Memorial Sign request from Mr. Sweeney. Is Mr. Sweeney here?
He is not, but I can tag team this with Kendra. Back at the Public Works Committee back on February 26th, Rick Sweeney, 2919 Lothair, came before the board asking that a memorial sign be placed on Ridge Road in remembrance of his good friend Tony Klein. Tony Klein played in the National Football League with the Raiders from 1970 to 1975, died at the age of 69. And Mr. Sweeney indicated that he died of a TBI injury from playing football for all those years. So the request came before the Public Works Committee. We just placed it on your agenda tonight, and Kendra can kind of add to the request and some of the history of past requests, just asking that the council make a decision tonight.
Yeah, I, just like Mark said, he did come, and my comments to him at that time, I didn't think it was appropriate that I just blatantly make the decision at the Public Works meeting, so that's why it's on here. But I did say to him that that's something that probably the town would not do, or that I wouldn't be in favor of, as we have gotten, as a long-standing member of the park board, I mean, 20, 30, 40 requests that I can probably come up with of people that have had, we've all had loved ones. I mean, I went, there are other options. I think there's some memorial bricks at the community center right now, and there's a plan going forward that might be an option. But unfortunately, we've had people approach the park board. They want to dedicate it, buy a bench, buy a tree, put something in the park. And unfortunately, there's more bodies and people passing than there are street signs and memorials and things. So we have always had the stance, which I have, at least as I've been a part of local government, to say no, unfortunately, to that. But there are some memorial World War II benches that people did, back then in the 40s. But we literally probably had 20 to 40 requests over a couple years of every time someone would pass, somebody wants to have a bench or a street named after them. And I just don't think we can accommodate one person and not another. So I think the general answer kind of has to be no.
And the park board is putting in a new memorial brick area just beyond the Presby's out there, which is going to be a large area with a flagpole and nice, replacing the existing memorial garden over there. So that's what I would suggest to Mr. Sweeney, is maybe purchasing a brick.
I can, I don't know if we have to, I don't think this is really an agenda item to vote on, but I can let him know. I'll get his email address or his phone from someone and can let him know that. Or we don't need to vote on this, do we?
It's on your agenda, so
all right,
what your intention is.
Okay.
I don't think we need to vote on this. I mean, I think we just need to tell him, and I can get you the forms for the bricks. So.
Okay. I'll get him a form for the bricks. Any other discussion on that? You guys okay with that? Okay.
Okay, town phone system. Chief.
I'll just briefly go through the email you received last week. The current town hall phone system, which is kind of an analog system, it's out of warranty. We can no longer get parts for the system that we have. We no longer have a maintenance agreement on it. Most municipal agencies and commercial industry are now going to voice over internet phones. I used them in my previous employment when we built the Michigan City Police Department. We now need phones in the new public safety building. As many of you are aware from the email last week, this would allow us to connect all of our town facilities on this digital network. Therefore, the street department, which now has its own phone lines going into that building, would be connected through the network so that if the public works employees are out in the field working, we could have those lines rolling over into the town hall where someone, either Renee or the clerk's office, could be answering so that we could better serve our residents. The primary purpose for this is kind of twofold. One, it's going to save us monthly on our current phone bill. Currently, we're paying a minimum of $432 a month for our phone service. By changing, we would go down to $272.80 a month. We sought 2 independent quotes. Both companies quoted the same manufacturer phone itself. One of them was $700 for installation. The other company was $2,500 for installation. And then the other company per month was $272.80 a month for the phones, and the other one was $407.80. I'm sorry, $407.20 a month for the phones. So my recommendation would be that we move forward with the voice over internet phone system upgrade for all town facilities to include the new public safety building, which would be included as that building needs phones. 2 phones would be installed in that facility as well. And over the course of the next year, Clerk Collins would have to look this year, obviously, how we're going to pay for this expenditure, because it will kind of exceed the budgeted amount for the actual phones for this year. My recommendation would be we have like a communication line in our 2024 budget where Meg could take some of the funds out of our communication line to help pay for some of these phones, because obviously the police department will be receiving these phones as well. As part of this proposal is also to replace the intercom system at the front door. The antiquated, outdated, 20-year-old intercom button that's out there, it often sticks, especially when the temperatures are below 32. The new intercom system outside the town hall would be a video intercom system so that the clerks could have the front doors locked, and while somebody's at the front door of the town hall pushing the button, we would see on the actual phone at your desk who's standing outside the town hall so they could safely let somebody in to protect all of our employees as well. So, and I can answer any questions based off the information I shared with you last week.
Anybody have any questions?
And the vendor that we're recommending to purchase this from is Acme Communications, which is also the same vendor that provides the current phone lines and the fiber to all the town facilities as well. So it's a vendor that we're already working with.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I've got a quick question, and it's really to the council. I'd like to know the role that members of the council see the Budget and Finance Committee playing in coming into playing in this part. What this is not the first time where discussions did not occur in a Budget and Finance Committee, which is discussing purchasing or leasing. The agenda for our meetings are then published with following information, and the Budget and Finance Committee is not coming up for discussion. Is it the desire of members of this council for the Budget and Finance Committee to weigh in on budget issues like purchasing versus leasing, where funds are going to be coming from, before things come to the full council for consideration?
I do rely on recommendations from the Budget and Finance Committee on budget and finance issues. So it seems reasonable.
Yeah, it's really a process issue, because 3 out of the 4 next items were not discussed or considered at the Budget and Finance meeting. And if that's the way we'd like to go from a process standpoint, Kendra, do you have any thoughts?
No, not really. Well, I guess sort of. I guess overall, is the budget and finance, it's probably my least desirable committee to ever join. So isn't it more set up though as big picture, like set the budgets in November for the council going forward? I think it's a great idea. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just trying to figure out, because I think it's set up now as like the overarching, how much, what do we need for this capital plan? Like big picture, this bucket's gonna have this much. And then once it's laid in the budget, then it's up to the individual committees to spend it. So I guess my question would just be, how do we make that, go smoothly so we're not delayed, so like what if you guys have to cancel a meeting and you don't get a chance to review something? And so we would have, I guess I just don't know what the process, because we've got Meg for the clerk, that's part of, well, her job sort of, but then Cinder and Associates, right, with Trista to help advise. So how does it go to the budget finance first and then Trista and Meg would review it, or? I don't know the process either.
Yeah,
but it'd be good to have that. Why not take advantage of another layer of eyes, for sure?
Yeah, the issue that I see right now, it's an environment where if it's truly the function of the board is advisory. You have Trista, Laurel, myself, Meg, and Chief sitting in a meeting talking about this stuff. There's a lot of movement going on within the budget, and we're talking just about putting stuff coming together again. What would this council like to see?
So this stuff has all been budgeted for last year, correct? Or except the town phone system was not?
We have $8,000 budgeted this year for phones in the 2024 budget. We would see an increase for the next 12 months on the actual monthly bill from the $432 that we pay now to $662 a month, just to cover the cost of the phones, because what they're doing is they're taking the cost of the phones to purchase them, dividing it up over 12 months, not charging us any interest, and then they're just dividing the payment of the phones over the 12 months. I will say, in reviewing what Meg had sent me as far as our monthly invoices for phones, that we do exceed the current 432 in some months because we pay more for long distance calls and things of that nature as well. To JD's point, I don't have a problem in advance sharing it with Budget and Finance, because they meet typically, the week before the council meeting, and that both Trista, Laurel, Meg, the full council, the majority of the members of Budget and Finance were copied in all these emails of all the expenditures we're talking about tonight. The only people that were probably left off were maybe Joe Jogman, and only because that's probably the only outside, committee member that wasn't included.
No, I appreciate that, Chief. That was just on Friday when the meeting was on Wednesday. And Joy, to your point, I guess in my overall feeling right now is that budgets will be moving this year based on what was presented in a capital plan versus where we're going to end up with some projects that have unforeseen expenses, some other obligations that may come forward. I think that is going to be the environment we're at. But this is really more of a process question than it is an approval of the phone. But I just wanted to get your feedback.
And if I could just add, based on, I think Kendra probably summed up what the overall intention has been. This is a good example, and J&D and I have had this conversation as he's been doing his due diligence in preparation for coming to office and then continuing to learn them. This is Budget and Finance is a good example, and same with HR. Some things are in the code, some things aren't. Some things take a life of their own. HR department, for instance, if you read the code, does not function as it wasn't intended to function as it's actually functioning. So I would encourage you to decide, based on that question, whether it's tonight or going forward, how you'd like those. For instance, HR was not set up to handle interviews and make short lists and do all those things. It was to review what the handbook says. For instance, I'm summarizing here, make recommendations to the council so you can make an informed decision. Budget and Finance isn't even under the code, and what your intention is and what you'd like it to be, right? So in clearing and clarifying what you'd like to do, those things are important because it gets rid of some of the confusion and frustration as well, and everybody then knows what's expected.
I do, I sit on budget and finance, and I do think that when these things are given to us by the chief as the town administrator, that there is always an explanation with what he's looking for. There's always, I appreciate even with the phone that he gave the 2023 numbers, the 2024 numbers. So I guess my thought is if that's how you want to change budget and finance, I think that Meg is probably the chair, and that might be a discussion for budget and finance as opposed to a discussion here, because whenever things come before us, I do think, again, that Chief gives a pretty good discussion about where the money's coming from, what it's budgeted. And so I just look at it as then that's a budget and finance. If we want to start making changes there, then that's where we make the changes.
I also just want to comment, I think that budget and finance can be evolving, and I think it has been all along since it was implemented with the needs of the town. And with, it's all of our first time doing any of this, and we didn't have our accountant for most of January. So that was our second budget meeting.
Yeah, and I'm only bringing this up as a point of clarification.
So I think that can be...
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's getting there, and the last meeting that you chaired was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a good meeting, but we have a lot of work to do.
I think it's important too, you said we didn't have our accountant. We also didn't have our clerk treasurer for most of 2022 and 2023, so that was probably to the detriment of what was happening. We were happy that things were just getting done and they're in order now.
Well, and I think as a result of everything that happened in the last 2 years, that committee's role was evolving that whole time. So,
I mean, I just think it's also important that we look at, let's call it the budget and finance for our knowledge and guidance, because it's easy to approve and keep approving and approve and approve. But at what point do we not have the money behind our approvals? So I get inflation, right? Things are going to cost more and we have to adjust. And by the way, we have a new building going in. We have to adjust for some modernization as well. So I'm good for it, but I have to believe that we have the money for these increases.
Well, that's...
yes, I'm a spender.
That's what, looking at the capital plan at the end of March, that's the purpose of that meeting, is to have more concrete answers and direction for where our first 3 months are at. So that is the goal and plan of that meeting.
Good. I didn't mean to take the conversation sideways, but yeah, let's get back to the question of the phone system.
Okay. A motion to approve the town phone system? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, Conica Minolta copier lease.
So again, on a cost-saving initiative, it was brought to my attention that two things. One, most recently, the copier had to be serviced. The document feed on the exterior of the machine was malfunctioning and is well out of date, and the technology of that machine goes back to 2016. Last week, all of you received a detailed email explaining the history where the machine was purchased back on November 5th, 2016 for $6,207. The Conica Minolta Model C368 is out of its life cycle. The scanning feature was explained to us, which is very important to all of us, where we scan documents in to limit the number of pieces of paper that we're printing frequently. That is probably on its last leg. And then most importantly, we found that over the years, our maintenance contract for colored copies, which means if an employee was to print a single page and one blue line was on that page they printed, we're being charged 15 cents per copy right now, which is outside the industry standard. Typically, most companies are paying 5 to 10 cents a copy. So our current copying fees are pretty extensive. So we want to decrease from our $376 a month that we pay on average for print fees and maintenance costs. With the proposal that's before you tonight, you have two options. One, obviously, you can purchase the machine outright for $5,200.01, and then our monthly fees would decrease from the $376 to $165 a month, or we can lease the machine with a $1 buyout at the end. And by leasing the machine for 60 months, we are still under the $376 that we pay a month right now. By leasing a new machine with all maintenance cost, and in the new contract, we were able to negotiate unlimited color copies and unlimited black and white, so we'll no longer be charged that 15-cent fee. We would be at $280.96 per month, so well under the $376, which we should have budgeted in the 2024 budget, because these numbers are well below what is already budgeted in our operating budget, and we would be saving money starting April 1st moving forward. Questions, comments?
Miss Copier, Shannon?
Well, it's a competitor, so Mark, I can't really comment.
Yeah. Well, we saw two quotes. We saw two quotes. The new machine is a C360i, both Chicago, Konica Minolta, which has our current contract. They had submitted a quote, and then Kemp's Office City nearby in LaPorte City, they submitted a quote as well, and Kemp's Office City was the lower of the two quotes, and probably is more responsive when it comes to servicing our machine because they are local. And I will add that they did share with me during our conversations last week that the City of Michigan City just leased a couple new machines from them as well. So other municipal, government agencies in LaPorte County are also buying from Kemp's, and they came in obviously cheaper than others. So it's the pleasure of the council just moving forward. The proposal was just to save us on our monthly overall cost.
Can I make just one comment that isn't particular to the printer? But in my 2 months in that office, there's various things that have not been assessed or looked at in a long time. So Mark has done a really great job in his tenure of trying to look at what he can and help or fix or better. So I think the printer is just one example of various, and I can tell you all about them, but all the things that need to be looked at. So, and that's where making strides, and some of it's going to take time. Some of it jumps out at you that, oh, we've been doing this the same way for 15 years and it hasn't been looked at one time in that whole time. So that's my only comment.
If I could just quickly add on that recommendation that I provided to you, one of the things is that if we purchase the unit from Kemp's at the $5,200, we would save approximately $1,700 in interest over the period of leasing it for 5 years. As I shared with you in that email, we have various CDs that we have invested currently. My recommendation was that we take some of the interest that we've been making on some of the CDs, recommend pulling $900 from each department, that being water, street, police, clerk's office, the building department. All of us utilize the one single copier. If we were just to remove $900 from any one of our office accounts for 2024 out of our budget, and then looking at the cost savings per month moving forward for the next 9 months, we could cover the cost of this machine without having to get an additional appropriation out of another account. So I threw out that. Trista Hudson from Carl Sender's office was included. I included the clerk just to get some input from them as to maybe a recommendation from them. Me personally, if it was me, I would just outright purchase the machine for the $5,200, figure out a way how we're going to pay for it this year out of the various operating expenses, and then reduce our monthly costs down to that $165 a month from the current, $376 that we're paying currently. So starting April 1st, the town would be saving money moving forward. Or we can lease it and pay $1,700 over 5 years in interest. So, and still be below the $376 that we're paying monthly currently.
And I believe the current one is it 6 or 8 years old?
We purchased the current machine November 5th, 2016 is when it went into service.
And it was purchased for, I think, $66 or $6,800.
The purchase price was $6,207. So the new machine actually is going to be cheaper. And I will add that there are enhanced security features on the new machine, particularly because of the scanning feature. And then they would also remove the old machine at no cost as well, because it's more or less a boat anchor to us. It would be of no value.
We have a motion?
Motion?
Maybe somebody in the budget and finance wants to make one. I'm leaning towards not doing a lease. I feel like it's not that huge of a purchase, and to spend $1,700 to lease, for outright, it's just, $5,000, but I will defer to you guys on budget and finance.
I'll defer to budget and finance.
I would make a motion to purchase the machine at the, as it has been outlined in the contract that Mark provided us.
Which way?
$5,200 to purchase
Outright.
the machine. Yeah,
Purchase.
outright purchase,
Yep.
yes. Outright purchase of the copier.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Cyber insurance renewal.
This is an annual policy. We brought it before you for informational purposes and also for your approval. We've been insuring the town with a cyber policy for the past 3 years. The renewal before you tonight from General Insurance Services is a reduction in the previous contract. As you received here well over a week ago, $3,582 was the 2023 policy in the document that we received. This year's policy renewal would be at $2,603.50. We had also provided this to our IT vendor and the information technology vendor K+. Their president recommended that the town continue to purchase cyber insurance protection due to the volatility in the nationwide markets, and that we don't want to put our finances at risk, and it would be nice to have some insurance if something of a terrorism attack or other cyber attack was to hit our systems. So I recommend that we continue to renew the policy.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Public safety building, future additional expenditures. John Wall.
Didn't expect to be up this late, sorry.
Me neither.
So what you have before you that was sent to you by Chief Swistek in this prior week is a projection of some additional costs. So the public safety building has been moving along, as Mark mentioned earlier in the evening. It's been a very successful project. We have not gone very deep into the pockets of the town in terms of overages. The current contract is at $3,175,000, which is probably a little over 8% over what we originally started at in terms of the original commitment on the town and with the aesthetics and some of the other things we started with. There are, however, some things that weren't foreseen, and that's what this sheet consists of. So if you have that in front of you, we'll just run through it real quick, give you a little education. The department made a $50,000 commitment when the project started, meaning the fire department made a commitment of $50,000. As you may or may not know, most of you probably do know, we dedicated our fundraising this year. In fact, encouraged in our annual fundraising letter, we encouraged the townspeople to donate with the express purpose of using it to subsidize some additional costs on the public safety building. So what this sheet represents, that there's two columns on there. One is the fire department's commitment. As you see at the top, there's already 18,000 or so spent already by the fire department for things that are already incorporated in the building. If you go down to the projection area, the meeting room, our needs are such that we want to accommodate our members, meaning if you look at that $15,000 for meeting room furniture, we anticipate and again, we haven't iced this yet because we haven't had your permission to do so, but that's what we would like to do. We'll get the number of chairs we need to accommodate our functions. If you guys want to have additional meeting room furniture to accommodate, larger meetings over there and you want to have it on some nice furnishings, then we're expecting you to come up with that 17 or so, which is the column to the right there on the meeting room furniture. AV equipment is a little bit of a misnomer. In fact, on your agenda, you show the next item down is a $26,000 commitment for AV equipment. I will tell you that we are in the process of researching all of that right now. Mark's been doing a great job. We're trying to coordinate 2 or 3 different vendors to get some additional pricing information in, but what we wanted to do originally was update this crazy Zoom setup so we're not dealing with all the static and all the rest of this nonsense, and actually have a two-way video kind of a thing going on in this room in addition to the new meeting room over there. It's a salty proposition. We did not anticipate the kind of numbers that we're seeing there, but it's in the neighborhood of $30,000 for that kind of stuff. So we don't need it right away. In fact, if all we do is accommodate what we need, we're going to be down in that 5 or 6 range, which is what you see on the column for the fire department. If the town chooses to have that kind of Zoom capability, we may have to incur the kind of money that you're seeing there on the town side of that column for that AV equipment, if you really want the Cadillac systems that we've been told we need. Now, Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially what's going on right now is we're going out and trying to find some other vendors to see if we can't bring that number down.
Yeah, this Wednesday at 9 a.m., Vance Communications out of Michigan City is coming in, and they specifically design conference rooms. They'll be meeting with us to provide us with additional quote.
We're lucky we have a resident in town that's a real adept person. He really knows his game. One of these original vendors that wasn't probably he basically said he was out over his skis. Essentially, the vendor was quoting things he wasn't quite sure of. So we're in the process of massaging that. So you don't need to worry about $26,000 right now for AV equipment on that next agenda item on your agenda, and nor do you need to worry about the numbers that you see on the AV equipment on this sheet that we're discussing right now. Office and radio room, we do need a couple of computers and some office furniture, which we anticipate that the fire department will pick up. The radio equipment is a different animal. However, we do need to coordinate between the new building and here in terms of radios. The fire department has an old radio. We're going to have that installed over there. What we'd like to do, we had a kind of a technical person come in. He wears a little gizmo. He looks like you expect him to blow up at any minute. He's got an antenna coming out of his back pocket, and he's got this big side saddle thing that he walks around the building. But essentially what he does is he tries to see where dead areas are. So we don't want to be in that building and not have the ability to hear the radios or have the radios function. So that's what this represents. That's probably close to what we do need for that expenditure. So that's one you need to look at seriously. So the fire department is willing to split that with the town. Moving farther down, fitness equipment, we're trying to get a grant through the, I forgot what it's called, but yeah, Health Foundation of LaPorte County or whatever it's called. It's the old money from when they sold the hospital. The county got a bunch of money, and they do a great job. They've subsidized a lot of things like AEDs. Hopefully they'll subsidize our fitness equipment, so we're not asking the town to expend anything on that. Shelving, workbench, miscellaneous, there's some stuff down below there. Flagpoles, they're already in. The prior council authorized that $12,000 expenditure, so that's why it's already been done. Civic, I think, donated 5 or something. Civic was very generous, and Long Beach Civic donated some money there. So really, there's only a little bit left on that we'd expect the town to come up with, and the fire department is going to contribute some of that. There's some little oddball things that probably don't need a whole lot of discussion unless you guys have some questions. Alarm monitoring system, we do have a fire protection system over there, which is a wet system, meaning it's if there's a fire over there, the heads go on, it sprinkles just like it would in this building and just like the town garage has. So we chose to do that, it was an additional cost. But we don't have an alarm system on that, meaning if a head opens up at 3 in the morning, we're not going to know about it. So what we're trying to do now, Mark did a great job. We had one quote for $3,500, and then Mark found another company that can do it for cheaper. So that one we kind of look at as the town's responsibility. Stackable washer and dryer, essentially the fire department doesn't really need that. That's essentially to wash the town hall towels and things. So that's really what that is. We expect the town to do that. Floor mats, we're going to split that with you. So essentially, if you take that $58,000 number on the town's column, what we're about tonight is if you can just give us an indication that you're okay, and I appreciate what you're saying as well, is in terms of budgeting. But essentially what we're saying is if you pull out the meeting room, if you can do the meeting room furniture later if you want to, or if you want to get involved in our purchase, then we should do it all together. But if you take the meeting room furniture and the AV equipment out of there, we're only talking about not even 20,000. So that's, we're just giving you a heads up. These are the things we think the building should have. You know, if you don't want to do them, things like the entry door graphics, that's an appearance thing. It's a little bit like the stone on the side of the building. If you need more information about those, we can spend some time doing it, although it's awfully late. So right now, we really don't need anything from you other than probably the radio equipment in terms of a commitment tonight. Is that fair to say?
The fire suppression monitoring.
I'm sorry, fire suppression monitoring. So the 1,900 on the alarm monitoring, and there is also an ongoing monthly, and I can't remember what that is. Mark, do you? I want to say it's $100 or something.
It is $42 a month to have the signal tested and $29 a month for the cellular connection to the alarm monitoring system. So a total of $71 a month. That will be an annual expense once we install it.
So there is an ongoing expense there. So really, if you can give us an indication that you think that the alarm monitoring system is a worthwhile endeavor, then you'd be looking at a $1,900 commitment. Again, that we haven't hardened those numbers yet. And then the radio equipment would be splitting that 50-50, which would be $13,500. So that's where we're at with that. If you guys can just give us an indication that you're okay with essentially $15,500 or so. Now, if you want to do that in conjunction with everything else we're talking about, we can do that too. But this is what we wanted to give you guys a heads up on tonight.
So although it says estimate, you do have a quote for the alarm monitoring system. That is the final, right? So
we have two quotes on that. One is significantly higher than what we're presenting to you.
But the $1,900 plus the $71 a month, that is your quote that you feel solid on.
Yes, one I believe was as high as $9,000, the first one we received. And then I was able to get the local Sentinel Alarm Company providing us with the 4-zone fire communicator, the fire cell, the horn strobe, all the conduit, all the necessary labor for $1,863 to install it. So well under the original one of about $9,000. And then monthly, you're looking at $42 for the signal test and $29 for the cell. So $71 every month we would be billed for the monitoring of that. This is necessary, obviously, because the insurance company, when they do their walkthrough, first thing they're going to ask is that with the fire suppression system, you know, where's the monitoring components of that? When it was built out, it was not built with the monitoring components. That's something that the owner has to supply. Therefore, why you have this quote in front of you for the $1,863. So
yeah, I would highly encourage us, especially if April timeframe is occupancy, that we have this in place for that.
Yeah, I still have to order parts probably.
So the other question is on the radio. Is that hard? We've got the quote on that for the radio system as well. Are we good at 27,000 with no other additional hidden costs if that were to move forward?
So Chicago Communications, which is a professional in the area of what this is a BDA. It's called a bi-directional antenna. They have an engineer that came out. The engineer did the walkthrough along with one of their other employees. And the cost of the bi-directional antenna, which would give complete coverage in that building for the fire staff, is $20,717.11. And then in addition to that, we have a second quote for $6,896.26, and that is for the installation of their radio equipment. That would be the radio amplifier, the radio communicator, the actual radio that the fire department would be providing, and then also the microphone system that would allow them to transmit out of the building to fire staff or the fire engine companies. And so you take those two quotes and that will complete all of the work. And with that, I would have to send both of these contracts to the council president because there is obviously signature that comes with these. And then we also have to provide so much up front, and then there'll be a final payout. And then also they provided us the actual breakdown of where everything will go in the building as well.
All right, so maybe I missed it. So the antenna is the $20,000 mark, the install is the $7,000 mark,
Correct.
and all of the other equipment we have already acquired.
They have their own radio that they'll be providing.
So Shannon, if you look at that radio equipment line, you got 13.5 on the fire department side, 13.5 on the town. Yeah, that's your 27.
Correct, but what Mark just read off was all this other equipment, and I'm assuming we already had that.
No, none of this has been bought yet, except with the exception of the old fire department radio, which is just sitting in a box.
Yeah, the numbers I just gave you is everything that we would have to pay for an expenditure, and then fire department is going to contribute towards these purchases as was broken down tonight. They're doing a percentage that fire would pay for, and then they're asking the town to pick up the remaining balance.
And honestly, we'll be back at you again when we finalize the numbers on, we don't even, the meeting room furniture is still a work in progress, as is the AV equipment. And then we'll come back and say, hey, we got it knocked in half. Hopefully it'll be, somewhat similar to what we did experience with the radio equipment.
Last Friday, fire staff met with one of the furniture companies. I know there's at least 3 furniture quotes that are out there floating around. And then
first quote was about 50 G, so we said that wasn't going to fly. So we're trying.
Chairs here that don't get used.
Well, yeah, we can sit on egg crates if we have to, but the idea was if you wanted to use it for what you're talking about, trying to use it for on occasions over there, maybe we need to do something a little more sophisticated. So.
Then the audio video on Wednesday, the goal is we'll look at this room and the current setup with the microphone system and the Zoom capacity, and then they'll look at the new building, and we would like to kind of mirror this room and the new building so that we have the same system, so that everybody's familiar with the AV components and the use of, Zoom and how we communicate to our residents. So.
Yeah, two things there, I guess. As to be clear, we haven't had necessarily a discussion exactly what that room would be versus this room and how we would utilize it. But obviously, there's got to be some benefit while walls are going up. It's going to be substantially easier for wiring and other things and cheaper to do it while.
Yeah, we already took that into account. It's all roughed in for either direction.
Yeah, so that as long as things are roughed in, if we come to the conclusion that we want to take the money and invest it in this room, keep it in this room, because training's going on Monday, so it would be useful, we can hold on for that decision for a later date, but still have the capacity to add Zoom capabilities there that would be technologically acceptable.
All right, so I would like to make a motion to move forward with the necessities of the radio equipment and the alarm monitoring system right now, because that sounds more required right off the bat. We can come back after your meeting with the AV and the furniture, but it sounds like those 2 items we need to function under them.
And their quotes.
So that's for a total of $15,400, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
5 and the 1,900.
Yeah, that's the immediate.
I'll second that.
If I could just add for clarification, so then if Shannon, you maybe could add to your motion, is that allowing the president to sign the contracts with both Sentinel Alarm Company for the fire monitoring, and then the other is Chicago Communications with 2 individual quotes from them. Those will require signature as well. So those 3 quotes.
Okay, I make a motion that the president has authorization to sign those 3 quotes.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Yeah, the last thing I just want to say, I don't want to be funniest, is before we are asked to approve stuff, can we get copies of quotes before we show up to the meeting? Just as a matter of process, we haven't seen those quotes. As stuff coming through, not just necessarily the Budget and Finance Committee, but also this organization is, John, I appreciate the work, but these are estimates. I'd like to see these quotes in advance of meetings. I don't mean to be difficult, but I think it's good management of our money.
No, I apologize. That's my fault on that because we were going back and forth on when we were going to present this and what month. And I totally take responsibility for that. As you know, I'm typically pretty good about getting the information to you in advance. However, with these two quotes, one was just the Chicago Communication one was hard to track down with them. And then Sentinels we just got last week and it totally slipped my mind to send it to you. So my apologies, but I'll get them to you tomorrow so you can take a look at them as well before signature. Is affixed to both contracts.
Well, we'll take some responsibility too. We've been chasing this stuff and trying to get cheaper numbers, and it's been a fluid process. But
or trying to get the vendors to get in here to give us some quotes.
Yeah.
Advanced Communications, I've been working, trying to get them nailed down for a few weeks, and finally this week, Wednesday, they just called me back today to schedule for the appointment.
So your next agenda item, you could just forget about that 26-4. We just discussed that. And I'll stay.
We've got a motion on the table. We've got a motion on the table. Yeah. So any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And we're going to skip the next on the agenda, Holiday Construction Group change, $26,419 for video. Let's move on to Holiday Construction Group invoice number 11 for $351,994.50.
Would we make a motion?
Yeah, can we move forward? I mean, this is allocated, right? So we can just make.
I make a motion to approve the Holiday Construction Group invoice number 11 for $351,994.50.
I'll second. Any discussion?
It's number 11. Yeah, so go back, make a motion to approve Holiday Construction request number 8, above it, 26.
That's one.
Yeah, that's the one we're
You're skipping that.
Video, yep, my bad. So then we're at the building department one.
Wait, I think we have to vote
Wait,
on.
we've got to vote on the Holiday Construction.
Second, right? I think she need a second.
Yes. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Building Department, Fireworks invoice, $7,500.
I make a motion to approve the Building Department review invoice for $7,500.
I'll second for discussion. I believe this is for their new computer system. Yeah, new software. All in favor? Do we have a motion?
I motion.
Yeah. Probably entire discussion, right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Haas and Associates Lakeshore Drive Water Project invoice, $19,253.90.
Make a motion. Did you want to talk, Mark?
No, I was just gonna say, as was shared with you, this is just part of that previous contract that you approved for not to exceed, I believe it was the 59,000. This is one of the invoices related to that previously approved contract.
I make a motion to approve the Haas and Associates Lakeshore Drive Water Project invoice in the amount of $19,253.90.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Haas and Associates, Stop 17 Drainage Project invoice, $13,666.16. I think this has an asterisk on it. And I think I read this was pre-approved or approved by the last council.
No, it's part of your stormwater project that's ongoing currently and what we paid out of the stormwater funds.
Okay,
So it's part of the overall project for
I would make a
17.
motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Woodruff and Sons, Inc., Water Surfaces Project invoice, $303,089.45.
Again, that's part of your previously approved contract for the water improvement project. And I would anticipate maybe one more invoice, and then we should be able to close out that entire project, which was initially awarded at $699,000 and some odd cents. So
We're gonna be below budget on that until we just did not anticipate that will be right. Not on 17 and 18, but, you know, the water.
it's a water improvement one.
It's gonna come in under budget.
Really? Is that a first?
No, not necessarily, I mean.
That's a fact.
It was. Great, yeah, awesome.
Okay, I would move to approve.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, council comments.
I just want to say real quick, I want to thank everybody who responded to Meg's email last week. The feedback from everybody, whether it was deer or signs or whatever issue it was, I definitely appreciate that. I definitely appreciate people taking the time and writing, so thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
Yep.
Claims approval. Meg?
For February 24, town checks number 20512 to 20573 totaling $182,059.43. Water checks number 54913 to 54945 totaling $311,445.51. February payroll, $90,102.16. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn at 9:48 PM.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Really appreciate it.